Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Roll call, please.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Matthew Donahue. Councilor Eileen Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Gendron.
Here.
Councilor Howe. Councilor Martin. Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Mulligan. Councilor Richards.
Here.
We have two proclamations to present this evening, and the first I'd like to present to Mark Young and also present a safety award to Steve Faxon that was presented to the City of Lowell for an outstanding performance at that facility. I'll read the proclamation, and I would give this to Mark Young, and Mark, feel free to say a few words. Whereas the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility was the recipient of the 1996 George W. Burke Jr. Safety Award, which is awarded annually to a municipal or industrial wastewater facility with a documented active and effective safety program. And whereas the Burke Safety Award is presented annually by the Water Environment Federation through the New England Water Environment Association. And whereas it is indeed a significant accomplishment for the staff at the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility to be selected as recipient of this prestigious award. It is a testament to the accomplishments, dedication, commitment, and professionalism of the employees and requires a true team effort. Now, therefore, I, Edward C. Caulfield, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, June 10th, 1997, as Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility Day in the City of Lowell, and congratulate all the employees for their nationally recognized award-winning safety program, given this 10th day of June, 1997, by Mayor Caulfield. Ladies and gentlemen, and the viewing audience at home, this team deserves a round of applause and a thank you for the great work that they do at that facility. And I'd like to present this George Burke Facility Safety Award to Steve Faxton, who did a great job for us at that facility. Steve? Yes.
I'd just like to thank the council and city manager for recognizing the employees of the wastewater utility, and I want to thank all the employees at the utility. This is an award that is certainly a team effort, and it's an employee award, not an individual award. All 45 employees at the utility were responsible for the utility to win this award. In particular, I'd like to recognize Steve Faxon, who was the safety committee chairman, and really did all the legwork to get our safety committee to where it is, an award-winning safety committee and an award-winning utility. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our past Executive Director, Brian Martin, for the support and commitment to our safety program, and also to our present Executive Director, Mark Young, for his continued involvement and dedication in helping us attain this prestigious award. This is the culmination of the determined and dedicated employees at the wastewater plant. The true meaning of this award allows all the employees to leave at the end of the day injury-free, which in turn saves taxpayer dollars on medical bills and workers' compensation claims. So again, thanks to everyone who made this happen, and I urge all departments to jump on the bandwagon, set safety goals and objectives, put your best foot forward, and strive to achieve them. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to welcome the students and dean from University of Mass Lowell into the council chambers. It's nice that you're here, and we welcome you. And I'd like to present a proclamation. And accepting the proclamation is Dean Donald Taylor, UMass Lowell. Whereas the campus of the University of Massachusetts Lowell has been part of the Lowell community for 101 years, and among our joint achievements has been the development of the arena and baseball stadium, projects of great promise to the region. And whereas the City of Lowell and the University of Massachusetts Lowell continue to enjoy the fruits of partnership in the fields of education, economic development, recreation, sports, and environmental science, to name but a few, and scores of the university students volunteer and complete their internships in the service agencies, facilities, hospitals, and schools of the city. And whereas all incoming students, as part of their orientation to the university experience during the month of June, are being introduced to the cultural and recreational attractions of the City of Lowell during a city university-sponsored tour. Now, therefore, I, Edward C. Caulfield, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim the month of June 1997 as Welcome Incoming UMass Lowell Students Month in the City of Lowell, and urge all citizens to join in opening our doors and welcoming the incoming students. Given this 10th day of June 1997 by Mayor Caulfield, and let's put our hands together and welcome these students to our facility.
On behalf of the university, we are really pleased to see the development over the years, and especially this year, the city manager put a welcome letter in the student connector issue for orientation. This is the first time we've been able to, in turn to the 1,200 new students who are coming in this month and say, this is a city that you should be proud to be a part of. We are proud to be a part of it, and we thank you, Mr. Mayor, city council members, city manager, and all that are here today for giving this proclamation. We will, every day of orientation this month, read this and thank you for the welcome that you're giving to the new students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. And last but not least, the mayor has a citation of thanks to be presented to the committee who traveled to Kansas City, Missouri this past weekend. And I would like to also thank the LDFC, Jim Cook, Maureen Bliss from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Anne Marie's monogramming. Without their cooperation, without their help, we could have never accomplished our goal, especially the LDFC, who, believe me, financed 2/3 of the trip. And the trip that we took to Kansas City was an experience for me. The committee did an outstanding job. Manager Martin did a fabulous job answering some tough questions. The 10 cities that won, we all agreed deserved to win. They had some outstanding projects, quality of life issues, but I'm telling you, I'm proud of this committee, I'm proud of this city, and when Lowell, Massachusetts was named amongst 2,000 people, I was a proud person amongst 15 other people. So I'd like to present a citation of thanks to the committee, and this is being presented to Kelly Hebert, and it reads, be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincerest appreciation to Kelly Hebert in recognition of her dedicated effort to promote the City of Lowell in the All-American City Competition at Kansas City, Missouri, June 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, 1997. The entire City of Lowell extends its very best wishes and expresses its sincere gratitude for your generous gift of time and talent to the All-American City Competition, given this 10th day of June 1997 by Mayor Caulfield. And Kelly, if you come forward and accept, I will read the names off of the other people. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, and my colleagues in government, these people work extremely hard. I mean, really hard. We rehearsed, and Barbara Palermo just drummed that rehearsal into us, and everyone worked together as a team, and Ratha Yem is holding up that Lowell, Massachusetts sign that was in Kansas City, and we're proud of it. Barbara Palermo. Barbara Palermo, would you just keep come forward? Leslie Oxton, Betty Decker, Maureen Bliss, Sophie Sum, Monica, I'm not going to pronounce your last name, Monica. Vanessa Dixon. I'd like to add, too, the two Lowell police officers, Officer Vanessa Dixon and Lieutenant Susan Seops. They did the Lowell Police Department proud. They did an outstanding job, and one of the very few cities that have police officers in there. To Susan Seops, Virginia Doloff, George Tucker, James Smith, Manager Martin, Mike Bacacilupo, Michael Chadwick, and Ratha Yem. How about a round of applause for these people? I'd like to have Manager Martin say a few words pertaining to this weekend and what transpired. Lowell, Massachusetts was one of 30 cities amongst thousands of cities in this country. They were there at Kansas City. Manager Martin.
Well, let me first say that I've been involved with city government since 1981. Not as long as Councilor Howe, but I'm catching up to him. And I've been involved with an awful lot of activities and events and forums. None was more heartwarming and more enjoyable as a public administrator than the experience in Kansas City. There were some 30 great communities, some small communities, some large communities. But what the city had to say through our neighborhood groups, through our residents, through our public officials, said to me that we're doing a lot of the right things in Lowell. We were a finalist. I would not have wanted to have been a judge down there because everyone deserved to win. But I think some of the communities have been there a number of times, and so perhaps part of what we need to learn is a little more perseverance to be one of the top 10. But the experience that meant the most to me was after the event, when we were not chosen. I asked the mayor to bring everyone up to my room and talk about the city. And each person that the mayor just mentioned and gave a proclamation to talked about Lowell and what it means to them and what it means to their families. And it was tremendous. There's a lot of love, a lot of care, and we are lucky to have people like this. So I want to thank the mayor and the councilors for their support, and we'll be back next year. Thank you very much.
If we can accept the minutes of the last council meeting, move for approval by Councilor Matthew Donahue, seconded by Councilor Eileen Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes are recorded and accepted. Moving on with the agenda, communication from Christopher Kelly. City Manager Brian J. Martin, Office of City Manager, City Hall, Lowell, Mass. Dear Brian, as you are probably aware, we have just completed the sale of the former Parkwood parcel to National Amusements Incorporated so that they may initiate the construction of a 14-screen showcase cinema. This state-of-the-art theater and the 5 restaurants that will eventually complement it will contribute significantly to Lowell's future economic stability and status as a destination location. Construction will begin immediately with a goal of completion by December of this year. This could not have been accomplished without the leadership demonstrated by the City Council and the City Manager, Brian Martin. We have faced significant legal opposition from competing businesses in an attempt to defeat this important project. The manager and the council have been decisive in taking their action to keep this project moving forward. Therefore, much of the credit for the project's success rightfully belongs to council members and Manager Martin. On behalf of Cross Point National Amusements, I extend congratulations and sincere appreciation for the leadership and responsiveness shown by the city's political leaders. The towers and the cinema restaurant project will continue to provide economic and cultural benefits for years to come. The city of Lowell will continue to thrive as a result of your actions. Very truly yours, Chris Kelly. Accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Mulligan, seconded by Councilor Mercier. Constable Bond Lawrence Hickey, 1461 Pawtucket Boulevard. City Council read June 10th. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue? Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin? Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $15,000 is hereby appropriated to managers marketing Gateway Cities, $15,000, and in order to provide for such an appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purposes from Manager Contingency Fund, $15,000. Second reading by title, manager recommends the amount of $15,000 to manager marketing Gateway Cities for managers contingency account. Council Miss.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, this is the first transfer we have tonight. It's for $15,000. And I just want to go over the paper that we got in our packet. It's a statement showing the budgeted revenues and expenditures versus actual through the end of May. This is a budget versus actual of what is appropriated in fiscal year 97 on the budget and what is spent up until May 31st, 1997. And when I look in that, I see we're at 92% of the year spent. That's the percentage that we've spent. When I look under city manager, what we have appropriated in the fiscal 97 budget is $522,091. And as of May 31st, we spent $370,042, which is 70.9%. So what that means is we have $152,000 left in it, minus the $15,000, which I see right here, leaves a total of $137,000. And I can go down the list to where I see treasurer, and under the treasurer's account line item here, we budgeted $789,363. We spent $590,694, which accounts to 74.8%, which is a $198,000 difference. And in the Division of Planning and Development, we've appropriated $804,937. We've spent 62.6%, which is $504,174, which is $300,000. If you add these three entities up, you get $635,000. The reason I'm bringing this up is because today is the 10th. The next council meeting is the 24th. It's only one council meeting left after this. We have 20 days before the budget ends. Are we saying that when we come back the 24th of June, we're going to appropriate and transfer $635,000? Does this reflect the fact that perhaps we over-anticipated the cost of the whole budget? Because I can't.
Barbara, definitely. Barbara.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor, perhaps it doesn't say it in the cover letter on this one, but I know I've said it in prior cover letters. This is a cash statement. It expresses the cash that has gone out the door. There are 2 more warrants going out between now and the middle of July to pay bills. This does not reflect encumbrances. Now, encumbrance means a purchase order that's outstanding and the bill has not been paid. So the percentages there are not reflective of what's going to happen between now and the end of June. Many things are paid over the next 2 warrants. A warrant means a payment of bills. I think that reading more into the statement than is just not appropriate
So
at
then
this
why do
time.
we get this if it doesn't hold through to what do we get this for? Because this is what I see in black and white.
Just informational, Councilor. You can talk to Mr. Kennedy, perhaps, if you like. He gives me the background information each one. I try to keep the council up to date on what's been going on. It's true that between now and middle of July, a lot of things will change, but at least it gives you some information as we go along, especially the revenue picture.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, I see your reserve fund over here for $139,000. Are you trying to pass legislation so that you don't have to put this money aside?
No, that's a different account. That's supplementary reserve. We had actually petitioned the legislature to not increase that additional percentage that the control board had requested a few years ago because our budget has increased, and that legislation is pending. We talked to Senator Pangiatakis yesterday, I believe, about that. It's a different account.
supplementary reserve.
Councilor Howe?
I want to briefly address the item that's on the agenda. This was a request by the City Council that the money be brought forward to initiate these.
Away from the victim. You're being politically correct if you're letting them make the decision, when in fact what you're doing is you're putting them in more danger than they have ever been before, and you're drawing a target right in the middle of their chest.
What's going on here in San Diego, according to the city attorney, is saving lives by aggressively prosecuting the minor misdemeanor cases, the slap or shove. That's because without early intervention, domestic violence often escalates, and that slap later leads to severe beatings, even to murder.
Now, Mrs. Morrison's not going to take the stand for the people. She will not be testifying on the people's behalf as to what happened that night.
Prosecutors try 70% of the city's domestic violence cases without the victim's assistance. They win almost 3/4 of them. That's because they back up their decision to prosecute with improved police work, Polaroid cameras to document injuries, and special forms.
It's a checklist to make sure that we have everything that we need for the report for better prosecution.
Domestic violence is on good morning.
And to follow up, a 26-member detective unit and 21 prosecutors.
We, the jury in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Thomas Allen Valley, guilty of the violation of section...
With a successful
homicides
than you'd expect.
and
It's temporary, $10,000. Second reading by title, manager recommends the amount of $10,000 to Parks overtime gas motor oil from Parks, salary and wages temporary. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Eileen Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Gendron.
Yes.
Councilor Howe.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan.
Yes.
Councilor Richards.
Yes.
On this article that I'm going to read, the figure is $32,000. Probably on your agenda, it's probably reading $25,000. I'm just letting you know that. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $32,000 is hereby appropriated to fire, overtime, $32,000, and in order to provide for such appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purposes from fire, salary and wages permanent, $31,000, salary and wages longevity, $1,000, for a total of $32,000. The second reading by title, manager recommends the amount of $32,000 to fire overtime from fire, salary and wages permanent, salary and wages longevity. Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just speak strongly in support of this. As my colleagues will notice, it pays particular reference to fire stations and keeping open 2 fire stations on the other side of the river, the Old Ferry Road and West 6th Street. With the closing of the Willette Bridge, it becomes paramount in significance for the public safety of that section of the city to keep those stations open on a round-the-clock basis. And we've already got some taste of some of the difficulties that will arise. I would compliment the police department. They seem to the extent that they can have a pretty decent handle on some of the issues that are raised with the closing of that bridge. But this speaks to a very necessary expenditure with respect to the public safety of Centerville and Pawtuckaville.
Any other discussion on this issue? I just want to say before we take a roll call, the fire department did an outstanding job Sunday keeping that fire to a minimum. And the fire departments that came into the city to help said whoever responded to this fire first did an outstanding job getting right on top of it. And I'm proud of the fire department for the job they did. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Eileen Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Gendron.
Yes.
Councilor Howe.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan.
Yes.
Councilor Richards.
Yes.
Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount, $43,102, is hereby appropriated to Public Works supplies, $10,000, energy, streetlights, $12,000, trash collection, $21,102, for a total of $43,102. In order to provide for such appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purposes from Public Works, heating, gas, $10,000, premises rental lease, $5,500, automotive supplies, $5,000, uniform allowance, $2,200, recycling, $15,000, hazardous waste, $4,697, computer equipment, $705, for a total of $43,102. And the manager recommends the amount of $43,102 of Public Works, various accounts from Public Works, various accounts. Roll call?
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counsel Matthew Donahue. Counsel Eileen Donahue.
Yes.
Counsel Gendron.
Yes.
Counselor Howe.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Mulligan.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $11,000 is hereby appropriated to parks, repair, maintenance equipment, $6,500, cemetery, overtime, $4,500, for a total of $11,000, and in order to provide for such an appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purposes from cemetery, salary wages temporary, $11,000. Second reading by title, manager recommends the amount of $11,000 to parks, repair, maintenance equipment, cemetery overtime, from cemetery, salary and wages temporary. Roll call?
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counsel Matthew Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Eileen Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Gendron.
Yes.
Counselor Howe.
Yes.
Counselor Martin. Yes. Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Mulligan.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Before we move on, Mr. Manager, as far as we're on parks, the lighting at the Bailey Little League Field, is that progressing?
My communication with the electrician was mid-June. They finished Pawtucket Memorial, I believe, and they were finishing a few of the new lights at Alumni that we had to put in before the spinners start, and the Bailey was next.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll see if I can get something more specific in your packet for Friday. That's my
Council Mulligan?
understanding.
I had requested some time ago, Connie Field at the North Common. I did receive some information that it was going to be done on such and such a date. That date has come and gone.
Okay.
So if you could look into that as well.
Jim Smith will be on that first thing in the morning.
Very good.
But I was told that the mid-June for the Bailey, because Councilor Gendron and a lot of people have called. Okay.
Council Howden, Council Matthew.
While we're on complaints, I want to add another one. 3 weeks ago, I asked you about the daily school signs. Are we overwhelmed with sign requests? I mean, there are no signs up there. I'm wondering what has happened.
Okay, yeah, well, I actually sent the sign shop to see the principal the next day, and they developed a different strategy because there were some handicap signs and things of that nature, and I don't know exactly what happened, but they
So they're
did
going to
meet
put
with...
them up?
I think there was an issue with the superintendent, so I'll have to follow up in the morning on that for you, but they did meet the principal the next day.
I go by there and I haven't seen them.
Okay.
I just wonder what happened.
Council Matthew Dunham?
Back on the parks, I was wondering, Mr. Manager, if we had, what's the status of of Shed Park, the tennis courts and the basketball?
Ask Tom Belgard that one. I don't remember everything on that, Tommy.
Council, what we're hoping to do is, presently we're working with DPW, and the contracts have been signed. It's my understanding that they're going to reclimate it on the 23rd and pave it the 24th and 25th, and following that, we'll get the tennis nets and the fence up. So we're still looking toward closure at the end of the month.
Okay. Council Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a motion on relative to Bailey School, the Bailey School today. I wonder if I could just take that up at this time, and we can, part of it was the lights, and I think that's already been addressed. The other part was there's some type of filling going on up at the Bailey School, and I was told that it was going to be filled for a girls' softball field, and there's a big, lead, indent there that's being filled in with, fill, and I was told it was going to be for a girls' softball field. So my first question is, what is going on up there? Is the fill being filled for any purpose? And the second thing was, there's some type of a drainage pipe at the bottom of this fill that seems to be being covered up by the fill. And it seems to me, if we're going to fill that area in, we ought to extend that drainage pipe out to the back. Can you address that, Tom?
I think so. Several years ago, maybe 4 years ago, the Highland Little League asked us to put a T-ball field in, a third field. Before they built the school, they lost the field where the school now sits. I'm not exactly sure how much we're going to be able to get in terms of linear footage, but we're hoping by fall of next year, we'll be able to have enough so that at least they can do T-ball. There's not enough area to do even an undersized girls softball field there. And they're well aware of that, or I thought they were.
Okay, that's fine. And what about the drainage pipe? Do you know anything about that?
We're working again with the engineering department when we go to fill in these areas, and I don't believe that's not going to be covered. I believe the top of the drain is the finished grade.
Okay.
But perhaps a 6-inch cap could be put over to extend it up, if that's a concern. But I believe we're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 150 feet, and a Little League's standard field is 190 feet. So it'll be a T-ball field, and we'll make it sure that drain is functioning, and then it's not in the way of the field.
And so you intend to extend the drain? So that
If that's what it takes, we'll do that, yes. It's my understanding at this point, the finished grade of the drain is the finished grade of the softball, or the tot field going in.
All right. Mr. Mayor, there may be somebody registered to speak on this. I'm not sure.
Let me, Councilor Howland, Councilor Mulligan, and then...
I just have one follow-up question on Councilor Jenner's motion. Where is the fill coming from? What kind of fill is it? Where is it coming from?
It's basically clean fill that's coming in from all the area parks, and whenever Public Works has a project that they do, there's several sites in the city, and that's one of those areas that we use. Because of the terrain is so steep, it's going to take really a joint effort with clean fill to accomplish our task out there.
Well, there's no contaminated material going in there, is there?
As far as I know, it's strictly clean fill that's going into that project.
Councilor Mulligan?
If you find otherwise, would you let us know? Seriously.
Tom, as far as the lights at the Bailey School, how can I follow that? As far as the lights at the Bailey, all the cable, all the electrical is already underground and ready to go, is that correct?
Yeah, what's happened, and I've talked to the city electrician as well. What happened is we have $10,000 that has been voted by the council. I believe it might have been 20, but 10,000 was for the light bulbs and the light fixtures. And it's now going out to bid, and it goes through all the issues pertaining to the bid. However, in the meantime, what the electrician's been doing is doing all the underground conduit, doing all the prep work needed to bring those lights to the field house at all three locations. As the manager earlier spoke on, the Bailey School has now been prepped, I believe, Pawtucket Memorial, and now we're heading over to the Finn Field. It's our object to have, when the bulbs come in, to do all of them at the same time. And that could happen, again, within the next week or so. It's not a question of appropriation of funds. It's really a question of physically having the light bulbs in-house. And to my knowledge, as of, I think, Friday of last week, they weren't in-house.
Councilor Richards.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would defer if someone's registered to speak. It's a park-related issue, but it's okay.
There's no one registered.
I got a call with respect to resurfaced tennis courts at Gage Field, but without nets, which makes for an interesting game of tennis, admittedly. But some person was wondering what the status was of the nets at that field, so if that could just be looked into.
I'll have them up. I'll try to get them up for you tomorrow.
Okay. All in favor of Councilor Gendron's motion? Who seconded that motion? We brought it up. Second. Councilor Richards. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
I have a suspension rule so I could comment on the daily school. I think I brought it to Mr. Gendron's attention, and
Someone
I think I know
moves.
more about it than the
Move for
DPW.
suspension by Councilor Gendron, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All in favor of the suspension? Suspension's an order.
My name is James Guthrie. I'm 49 Rodora Street, and I drive down on my bike in that area every day, so I think I'm an expert on the area. There has definitely been a drain pipe of that size covered up, and because of that, we have a big puddle down there when it rains or during the winter. And it's even deep enough to be dangerous for little children from the Bailey School. Right now, it's a mud spot, a mud pile, and it's loaded with empty beer cans. To clarify the record, the filling is all clean, as far as I can see. But it looks to me like, unless it's already been done, that you're impinging on wetlands, and with that fill, and if it hasn't been, if you haven't got the authority, I think you might get into trouble. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have the utmost faith and confidence in Commissioner Bellegarde to make sure, I believe he's doing the right thing. So, that be the case, we'll investigate.
Just to reiterate, it is a serious problem. It's a very steep cliff now there with this puddle at the bottom. If a kid ever fell over there, heaven forbid, we'd never find him. It would take us weeks to find him because
Manager Martin and Commissioner Bellegarde will investigate this and bring it to the council's attention. We'll now, on the agenda, we'll enter into public hearings. All we ask you is to state your name and address for the record, whether you're in favor or against. And I will read the first ordinance. An ordinance deleting existing positions in the Lowell Regional Water Utility and creating new positions therein. Those persons wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this ordinance, please do so now. In favor? In favor of this ordinance? In favor? In favor, in favor, in favor. That portion of the hearing is closed. Those wishing to come forward in opposition to this ordinance, in opposition, public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Councilor Martin.
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Richards. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll have a roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
The second article on the public hearing agenda. Amending the loan order with respect to the baseball stadium by increasing the amount authorized by $400,000 and rescinding the loan order appropriating $400,000 for land acquisition for a new police station. Those wishing to speak of this ordinance, please come forward. Wishing to speak in favor, just give us your name and address.
My name is Peter Osella. I'm Director of the Arena Commission. I reside at Parkview Avenue in Lowell. I just thought it would be opportune to mention to the council that after several years of work, we're at a point where the construction contract is awarded, the construction contracts are being executed, the site is about to be transferred this week or early next to the city. The piece of funding that's before you is actually the 10th piece of funding that goes into this overall package, but I'm pleased to say to you that even with the approval of this piece, the city's financial participation in the baseball stadium and alumni field, as well as the alumni field project, will remain less than 20% of the total cost of the project. So I think it's, whenever you can get $4 from someone else for every dollar you can put in, it's a good deal. We hope that this will be approved so that we can move forward and award the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Those wishing to speak in favor of the amendment to this loan order, please come forward.
Mayor Caulfield, members of the council, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I wish to speak in favor of this. It's a good project. At the last meeting, you voted on various other proposals regarding the stadium, and this goes along with it. Also, the fact that the new police station wouldn't be looked at for at least a couple of years. I urge the council to unanimously approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward in favor of this amendment to this loan order? In favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? The portion of the hearing is closed. Those wishing to come forward in opposition? In opposition? In opposition to this loan order?
Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, ladies and gentlemen on television. Mr. Chairman, as a matter of principle and to be consistent, I am here to speak in opposition to the spending of more taxpayers' money on building a baseball stadium on the riverfront. But as a practical matter, there are few other options left. My own preference of canceling this project and using the baseball field on Roger Street instead is not part of the grand and expensive design for the downtown. The supporters of the new stadium have dug this hole so deep and got so committed that there's little left to do except spend some more of the taxpayers' dollars. This additional $400,000 is another one of those unpleasant consequences that result from this baseball stadium project being misrepresented from the word go. Do you remember, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, several years ago, when the question of building the stadium was the subject of a public referendum, I was one of the many people who got the necessary signatures to put the question on the ballot. I remember getting over 100 signatures, and more than 90% of the people who signed were against the projects because they thought it would require the spending of taxpayers' dollars. But then the misrepresentation began. It was indicated by supporters of this project that it would not cost the taxpayers anything. And as a direct result of this misrepresentation, the referendum result was in favor of the new facilities, 52% to 48%. Even with the misrepresentation, almost the majority of the public did not vote for the project. If the public could vote today, I'm sure the project would be turned down at least 2-1. Recently, we were told that the city will pay only 19% of the construction. It was said that this was a bargain. We are now getting a different spin. The costs have gone up from 0 to 19%. What has happened to the promise that the new stadium will not cost the taxpayers anything? As former Mayor Tarsi Pulter said the other day, we are not opposed to the new facilities. We are only opposed to the local taxpayer paying for it and not getting equal or better value in return. So far, it appears as if the taxpayers are going to pay plenty. Let's hope it stops somewhere soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward in opposition to the amendment to this loan order? In opposition, in opposition, in opposition. Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Move approval by Councilor Howe, seconded by Councilor Mulligan. Councilor General.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little tired of the saying, I'm not against the project, I'm just against spending any money on the project. I think we have to make it clear that if we're going to believe in ourselves as a city, if we're going to believe in our future, we want to invest in our future, then spending a small amount to get a large amount in return is a good thing. We need to invest in our future, and that's what this is about. And I think if we had a referendum on the ballot as to whether we should keep the spinners playing in Lowell and whether we should continue progress on the arena, it would pass bigger than it passed before.
Any other discussion before we take this vote? I just want to say very briefly, while in Kansas City this weekend, Manager Martin and myself, whether it was from Wichita, Kansas, Fremont, California, or Hillside, Colorado, people know about the spinners. People know about the lock monsters. People are well aware of Lowell, Massachusetts being a sports city. And we were flabbergasted at that reaction. And these two sports teams are going to do great things for the city. Councilor Mercer.
Talking about an all-American city, there's no doubt about the fact that we're all very proud of everyone that took part in, and went down to Kansas City. It was a joint effort that was terrific, no doubt about it. But I want to remind you that we are an all-American city. Back in 1973, under the direction of former city manager Jim Sullivan, we did become an all-American city. It's too bad we had to wait all these years, but they can never take that away from us. We are an all-American city. I have a pin right here that designates us so. But I just want to remind you also that the voters never voted for a stadium. As far as I remember, we voted on an arena. I don't recall ever voting for a stadium, so furthermore, I'm not voting for this anyways.
There's no more discussion. We'll take a roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue? Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
No.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
I would ask my colleagues at this point in time if we suspend the rules. It is pertaining to the stadium, and Manager Martin has informed me that unless we suspend the rules and take action on this piece of legislation, he cannot sign a contract with
I
the
move we
contract.
suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules by Councilor House, seconded by Councilor Eileen Donahue. All in favor of suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Suspension is an order. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $400,000 is hereby appropriated to baseball stadium, $400,000, and in order to provide for such an appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purposes from manager's supplemental reserve, $400,000. The second reading by title, manager recommends the amount of $400,000 to baseball stadium for manager's supplemental reserve. Manager Martin, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just, I tried to contact as many of the councilors this afternoon as I could. As you're aware, obviously the bond vote was just taken, requires us to hold the vote for 20 days. We had originally been advised it would be okay. This is not the case. Our bond counsel has said this afternoon that you have to hold that vote for 20 days. Our intention is to sign the contract tomorrow morning with Peabody Construction. So Barbara Hagg and the treasurer met late this afternoon, suggest we transfer the 400 from supplementary reserve. We will rescind it in 20 days or at the next council meeting thereafter, and the money will go right back. But this will allow us through the auditor to sign the contract and move forward. So that's all this is. It isn't new money. It will just be flipped. Once the 20 days expires, we'll come back to the council.
Roll call. Council Mulligan?
Could you just inform us of what's going on with the challenge?
Probably Dave Penton could explain a little better, but there really isn't a specific challenge, but he could explain that, Dave.
As you know, the Callahan Company was the low bidder. There was a determination made that they were neither responsive nor responsible, as those terms are defined under the law by the law department, and in turn the low bid was rejected and the bid was awarded to the next highest bidder, Peabody Company. Callahan Company has in turn brought a suit which is pending, and any discussion with respect to the suit or the strategy with respect thereto, I would prefer to discuss in an executive session. I would just add that there's a two-avenue approach that an unsuccessful bidder may seek. One is to go before the Attorney General's office and seek a review of the bids, and that's usually what is done, or in the alternative, which Callahan chose to do in this instance, is to go directly to Superior Court and file an action. They filed an action in Plymouth Superior Court that's pending, and we are in the process of handling that suit, but I prefer not to discuss strategy with respect to that at this time.
But we can go forward even though there's a suit pending.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you.
Councilor General.
I guess we're going to take all my motions out of order today, but I also have a motion on regarding information regarding the challenge to the lawsuit, and based on Solicitor Fenton's statement that we shouldn't discuss it for fear of damaging our case in court. I would suggest that maybe we take that up at the end of the meeting and consider going into executive session to discuss it. So I'd like to know what the status is, and more importantly, how it affects our schedule for the stadium. Because I'm very concerned that if this challenge goes on for a prolonged period of time, we may run into problems with getting the stadium built on time. And maybe there's things we can do as a city to continue the construction, continue the progress, while still maintaining the case. So I guess I'll defer my comments to the end of the meeting, and we can take up that motion at that time and decide whether it's appropriate to go into executive session or not.
Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Council Matthew Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
No.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
The last article on the public hearing, Ideal Tape Company, 1400 Middlesex Street, request increased storage liquid nitrogen from 9,200 gallons to 11,000 gallons. Those wishing to speak in favor, come forward.
I'm Ray Ronda with Ideal Tape, plant engineer. We're only proposing to increase the storage to 11,000 gallons to reduce the frequency of deliveries, pretty much to help benefit Ideal Tape as well as the neighborhood, to reduce the traffic of tractor trailers coming into the parking lot.
Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this petition? In favor, in favor, in favor? The portion of the hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to come forward in opposition? In opposition? Opposition. Public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the body? Move for approval by Council Mulligan, seconded by Council Martin. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue? Yes. Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
I'm going to read the communication and just read the title of the other three to expedite the meeting. Vote authorizing the continuation during fiscal year 1998 of the revolving fund in the Department of Public Works in connection with program of funds received and related expenses pertaining to the closing and cover of the City of Lowell landfill. Whereas the City Council, by vote dated September 27, 1994, established under the provisions of Massachusetts laws, the 44, Section 53E, a revolving fund in the Department of Public Works in connection with this program for funds received and related expenses pertaining to the closing and cover of the City of Lowell landfill. And whereas in order to continue said revolving fund, it is necessary for a vote to continue said fund prior to each fiscal year. And whereas the City Council, March 21st, 1995 and May 21st, 1996, voted to continue said fund during fiscal years 96 and 97, respectively, and whereas it is desirable to continue said revolving fund during fiscal year 98, and whereas the city manager has recommended the continuation of said revolving fund for fiscal year 98. Now therefore, it is voted that the City Council of the City of Lowell, in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E, as amended, hereby authorizes the continuation of a revolving fund in the Department of Public Works and the City of Lowell for the receipt and expenditure of funds for the purpose of a program pertaining to the use of the cover materials and the closing of the City of Lowell landfill. Said revolving fund shall be continued during fiscal year 98 for the receipt and expenditure of funds for the purpose of a program for the use of cover materials and the closing of the City of Lowell landfill. And 2, limited to the receipt funds from sources including but not limited to A, funds, fees received for cover material related to landfill closings, B, state and other federal grants for said program if permitted, C, other sources of fund for said program. 3, limited to an expenditure of not more than $80,000 in fiscal year 98 for said landfill closing and cover program unless said amount is increased by separate vote as provided in said section 53E. And subject, 4, subject to the statutory requirements of Chapter 44, Section 53E, and a half is amended. And 5, subject to the provisions of the vote of the City Council dated September 27, 94, and other votes related to their 2 and 6, subject to guidelines issued by the Director of Bureau of Accounts of the Department of Revenue. 7, subject to written authorization and approval of the City Manager, City Auditor, Commissioner of Public Works relative to the expenditure of funds from said account. 8, not used for the payment of wages or salary of any full-time employee of the City of Lowell unless such funds is also charged with the cost of fringe benefits associated with the wages and salary so paid and only with the prior written permission of the Chief Financial Officer. 9, subject to reporting requirements and other provisions of said Section 53E as amended. And 10, funds received from methane gas program at landfill shall go into general fund and not this revolving fund. And 11, funds authorized and written by the Chief Financial Officer may be used to pay temporary salaries and wages, etc., relating to the landfill. I'll read the title, and I'll read the title of the other 3. Authorizing the continuation during fiscal year 98 of the revolving fund in the Department of Public Works in the connection with the program for funds received and related expenses pertaining to the closing and cover of the City of Lowell landfill. Authorizing the continuation during fiscal year 98 for the revolving fund of the Police Department in connection with programs for funds received and related expenses pertaining to a program to increase traffic enforcement. Authorizing the continuation during fiscal year 98 for the revolving fund set up in the City Auditor's Office for the Division of Planning and Development in connection with the construction trades program for funds received and related expenses pertaining to the renovation of certain buildings or structures in the City of Lowell. Authorizing the continuation during fiscal year 98 of the revolving fund in the Department of Public Works in connection with the program for funds received and related expenses pertaining to the demolition of abandoned, burnt, dilapidated, or dangerous buildings or structures in the City of Lowell. Council Mercy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, in regards to this revolving funds for the four programs here, like the landfill and demolition program, how much money are we talking about in this revolving fund?
I can get you exact balances in each account. There's approximately $100,000 right now in the landfill. There's a little more than $100,000 in the construction trades. I believe the traffic one has about $170,000 the last time I checked, although I can get you exact figures. And I don't remember what the other one was.
Demolition program, 200,000? See, I didn't know if...
I don't think so anymore, no.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much money we're talking about. Is this indicated in the budget at all? Any of these revolving funds?
No, they're not, which is part of the reason why they're voted once per year. And it's not that what the balance is currently. There could be money coming in during the year. For example, on demolition revolving, on grant funds that have been used for demolition in prior years, once a piece of property is sold and that demolition lien comes back to the city, it would go into the revolving account to be reused for the same purpose. So that's what happens with the revolving, that's why it's called a revolving account. But I can get you exact balances on each
Because
one.
I noticed that when I was looking through the budget, it said revolving fund, and under the police department, it said compliance officer. So I thought this was a part of it. It says it in the book here.
I think that's under the DPD. The compliance office is under DPD.
Well, are we Ed Souza, are we talking about
That's right.
DPD?
That's right.
So it said revolving fund, so is he paid out
Yes,
out
he
of a
is.
revolving fund? So if I could I have a breakdown of what the cost, how much money we're talking about is going into each one of these four?
I will get you the all the activity that's happened this year for each one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Council Jenner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In general, I think the funds are a good idea. They allow us to take proceeds from, say, the demolition program, proceeds we may get from that program, and put it back into demolishing more buildings. And by the way, as I drove through Couple Square on the way down here today, I was very surprised to see that building in Couple Square that we slated for demolition is finally down. It looks really good there. Yeah, the greenhouse in Couple Square. My question was about the landfill account. Do we have a provision in that account that would allow us to use that funding for, beautification of the area, maintenance of the area?
We have some money in there for temporary salaries and wages with the idea that we could use people to mow the grass there. But I think is that a question, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was on my motion a couple years ago that we initiated this landfill revolving account, and the intent was to take the money that we got from the cover of the landfill and put it back into the closure of the landfill.
Right.
Now with the landfill pretty much closed, the need for that money is diminishing, but if we could continue to use it to maintain, and also the proceeds are diminishing as well, but if we could use it to maintain the area, I think that might be a good use. So my question is, can we do that? If
Well,
we
we
wanted
can-
to say, put trees on the perimeter or something like that, could we use the money in there to do that?
I know it does say temporary salaries and wages, and the purpose of that was for the mowing, but I'm not sure about the trees. Do you have an opinion on that, Councilor?
The landfill revolving account was originally started, as you indicated, Councilor, to cover the landfill closing and cover program. These revolving accounts are limited to the purposes specified therein. If it is your intention to broaden the scope of that, then perhaps an amendment from the floor could be made to change what is paragraph 3 and just broaden it to include what you choose concerning any landscaping or what have you.
Okay, so I will make a motion then that we modify paragraph 3 of the landfill revolving account order to include maintenance and landscaping of the landfill area.
That would be part of the revolving.
That would be a legitimate expenditure as part of, from the revolving fund.
I think that's very important.
Second.
Seconded by Council Mulligan. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Roll call on the question.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Council Matthew Donahue? Yes. Council Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
Order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary and Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, effective upon passage and continuing for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 13-156, parking for handicapped persons, is hereby amended by adding the following. Merrimack Street, northerly side beginning at a point 162 feet easterly from the easterly line of Kirk Street, extended and running east for 20 feet. Section 13-156A, handicap drop-off zone, is hereby amended by adding the following. Cabot Street, easterly side beginning at a point 387 feet northerly from the northerly line of the Northern Canal and running 20 feet. Section 13-158, parking prohibited on certain streets at all times, is hereby amended by adding the following. Merrimack Street, northerly side beginning at a point of 102 feet easterly from the easterly line of Kirk Street, extended and running east for 26 feet. Section 13-177, loading zones, is hereby amended by adding the following. Merrimack Street, northerly side beginning at a point 36 feet easterly from the easterly line of Kirk Street, extended and running east for 47 feet. Section 13-235, parking meter zone, 2 hour, is hereby amended by adding the following. Merrimack Street, northerly side beginning at a point 182 feet easterly from the easterly line of Kirk Street, extended and running east for 100 feet. Section 13-235 is hereby further amended by deleting the following. Lee Street, remove parking meters number 5, 6, and 7. Page Street, remove parking meter number 30. Second reading by title. In City Council, order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Council Mitchell.
Mr. Mayor, since we're talking about parking and parking meters and downtown and whatever, I was downtown this morning and I was talking to a few business people along Central Street who make their living out of being restaurants and having people in there, and we try to promote the city as best we can. And I'm asking for a certain request that seems a little bit unreasonable, but when you stop and think of it, it really isn't, and I thought this would be an appropriate time to segue this in here. It seems that the meter maids go out at 8 o'clock in the morning and start ticketing, and there are people that go for breakfast along Central Street in different restaurants, and the people go in 7:30, 7:45, and they don't think that in another 15 minutes, when you have to put the money in the meter or you're going to get ticketed. And a lot of times, they come out and after they had their breakfast, what a way to start a day. They got a ticket on their car. And, you know, if I had my way, I'd take them all out of there. But the thing of it is, if we could talk to the one that's downtown and have her go in there at 8 o'clock and say, I'm about to ticket. If anybody wants to feed the meter, go ahead before I ticket you. It would be a little bit nice to do that. I'm not telling her to go up to the 3rd floor in a law firm and try to look for the people, but 99% of the time, the traffic in front of those establishments are having breakfast, and a lot of the customers are not coming back. So I'd like to, just send a little message. I know if I were the meter maid on Central Street, I'd go in and say, hey, listen, it's 8 o'clock. Do you know where your car is? Go out and put a quarter in or whatever. I would do that. I mean, how hard is that to do? 99% of the time they're in these restaurants having breakfast. They overlook the time. If we could do something about that.
Roll call.
Could I just have a comment?
I'm sorry,
comment on
Councilman.
that? From my observations, and I'm in the downtown every day, I've concluded that the meter maids on occasion do selective ticketing. I don't think they're consistent with their policy. I've observed vehicles parking at a 15-minute location, sitting there all day long without being ticketed. I've seen other cases where they're constantly ticketing cars. Seems to me that there ought to be a better policy dealing with meter maids and their relationship to the public and to the work that they're responsible for.
Barbara, you like to say? Oh, Council Mulligan.
Well, it's my understanding that what was said to me was, I'd like to get a copy of the policy, to be quite honest with you. That's number one. Number two, there are cars parked in loading zones. And as far as I'm concerned, that's why we have major problems with traffic in our downtown. There are cars parked in loading zones, and what was said to me that the meter maids don't ticket those because they're meter maids. They only ticket meters. I don't know if that's the policy, but if that's the policy, that policy should be changed. So I'd like to get a copy of that policy, and my motion further on will explain why that my motion is there. Thank you.
I agree with Councilor Howell that I've heard stories where the meter maid has almost pounced on the car the minute the meter ran out. And people come running out. I was on my way out, but I agree there's some isolated cases like that. Councilor Eileen Dunham?
Are we voting on the handicap space on
Yes.
Merrimack Street?
Yes.
As far as the comments regarding the meters, I think if there's any policy, perhaps that should be referred to the manager and to the chief of police, because I think we better be careful about establishing a policy that may come back to haunt us if we favor Central Street over another street or something like that. So I think maybe that's something that the manager and the chief of police should sit down and look at in an overall manner.
What's before us is a 60-day trial period of the communication that I read. Roll call?
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Council Matthew Donahue? Yes. Council Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Council Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin? Yes. Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
Vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend $428,040 in Shelter Plus Care Program funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for supportive services to rental assistance for permanent housing for homeless persons with disabilities and their families. Whereas the City of Lowell is desirous of accepting $428,040 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Shelter Plus Care Program. Now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and is hereby authorized to apply for, accept, and expend $428,040 in grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Shelter Plus Care Program for homeless persons with disabilities and their families. The second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend $428,040 in Shelter Plus Care Program funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for supportive services to rental assistance for permanent housing for homeless persons with disabilities and their families. Roll call?
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Council Matthew Donahue?
Yes.
Council Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
Yes.
Councilor Martin? Yes. Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
If we can have a suspension of the rules, this is a similar vote pertaining to this issue. Suspension by Councilor Mulligan, seconded by Councilor Martin. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The suspension is an honor. Vote. Authorize the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend $162,750 in supportive housing care funds for the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for use by the Middlesex Shelter Incorporated to assist homeless persons in the transition from homelessness towards independence. Whereas the City of Lowell is desirous of accepting $162,750 from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for the supportive housing program. Now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and is hereby authorized to apply for, accept, and expend $162,750 in grant funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for the supportive housing program for use by the Middlesex Shelter Incorporated to assist homeless persons in the transition from homelessness towards independence. Be it further voted that the city manager be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents in connection therewith. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend $162,750 in supportive housing care funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for use by the Middlesex Shelter Incorporated to assist homeless persons in the transition from homelessness towards independence. Roll call?
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Council Matthew Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Eileen
Yes.
Donahue. Counselor Gendron.
Yes.
Counselor Howe.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Mulligan.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Vote approving the exemption of Sylvia Carbonell from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. Whereas Sylvia Carbonell is the traffic supervisor for the city of Lowell, and whereas Sylvia Carbonell desires to accept a position of part-time parent liaison with the school department, and whereas in order to be employed in a second position with the city of Lowell, an exemption from the provisions of Section 20 of Chapter 268A is required, and whereas in order to qualify for such exemption, an employee must satisfy all the conditions under said Chapter 268A, Section 20B, and whereas the position of part-time parent liaison is with a completely independent department. And whereas the position of part-time parent liaison was publicly advertised, and whereas on May 9, 1997, Sylvia Carbonell filed a statement disclosing the second job with the city clerk. And whereas the second job will be performed outside the normal working hours of the first position. And whereas the services to be performed as a part-time parent liaison are not part of Sylvia Carbonell's duties as a traffic supervisor, and whereas Sylvia Carbonell will not be compensated in the second position for more than 500 hours per year, and whereas the school department has certified that no employee of that department is available to perform the duties of part-time parent liaison. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the City Council of the City of Lowell hereby approves the exemption of Sylvia Carbonell from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws 268A, Section 20. Second reading by title, approving the exemption of Sylvia Carbonell from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20.
I have a question. What school is she assigned to as a traffic supervisor?
Malloy. Malloy.
For the Malloy School, is that where she's going to be part-time parent aide?
Any other questions? Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Matthew Donahue. Counselor Eileen Donahue.
Yes.
Counselor Gendron.
Yes.
Counselor Howe.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Mulligan.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
If we can move to suspend the rules, I have another issue pertaining to this identical piece of legislation I just read. Moved by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Martin. I will read the names and I will read the title and waive the reading. Approving the exemption of Elaine Boucher, Whitney Jablonski, and Krista McGrath. Here's the reading by title. Approving the exemption of Elaine Boucher, Whitney Jablonski, and Krista McGrath from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. It's the same piece of legislation that I just read. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield. Counselor Matthew Donahue. Yes. Counselor Eileen Donahue. Counselor Gendron. Counselor Howe.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Mulligan. Yes. Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Vote authorizing the city manager to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for management services for the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for an initial term of 5 years, with an option to renew or extend such management services for an additional 5-year period. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium has voted to request that the City of Lowell proceed under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for management services for the auditorium for an initial term of 5 years, with an option to renew or extend such management services for an additional 5-year period. And whereas the City Council must authorize the city manager to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, in order to obtain such services for an initial term of 5 years, with an option to renew or extend such management services for an additional 5-year period. Now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote that the city manager and or the Board of Trustees of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium are hereby authorized to seek, receive, and accept proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, relative to management services for the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for an initial term of 5 years, with an option to renew or extend such management services for an additional 5-year period. Be it further voted that the city manager and or the Board of Trustees of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver any and all other documents related to management services for the Lowell Memorial Auditorium on such terms and conditions as the city manager and or the Board of Trustees of the Lowell Memorial Auditorium deems in the best interest of the city of Lowell. Second reading by title. Vote authorizing the city manager to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B for management services for the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for an initial term of 5 years with an option to renew or extend such management services for an additional 5-year period. Roll call.
Mayor
I'm
Caulfield.
sorry, Council Eileen Dunham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this request by the manager, I would suggest that we refer this to a finance subcommittee. First, let me say I think Mill City Management has done an excellent job at the auditorium, and I think their track record since July of '95 has been a very good one. And I have looked over the proposal, but I think that in regard to this request by the manager, I'd feel more comfortable if we had more information from the manager. And in that regard, I'd suggest that we send it to perhaps finance subcommittee, just to have more information on the financial side of it.
Second.
Who seconded? Council Matthew Dunham. All I can say is about Tom McKay and his leadership at that facility. We all know, and anyone who has gone into the auditorium, the outstanding job that that management firm has done. I would vote on this tonight. I don't have a problem voting on it tonight. I think it's wonderful that we have a low-born guy who's taken such a great interest in that facility and doing a great job at it. And try to get the auditorium. It's booked solid, and that speaks for itself. Council Mulligan?
I don't dispute that. I think that every one of us here feel that they're doing a wonderful job. I think that if there are some questions that some of the councilors may feel that they need to be addressed, I wouldn't be opposed to sending it to a subcommittee, as long as we'll be able to vote on it within the next meeting.
Okay.
Let me ask a further question of the manager, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager. Is there any reason why sending it to a subcommittee would be detrimental time-wise?
No, I think the fact is they'd have to develop an RFP through the law department to publicly procure the services for any extension. I do think that we want to continue with privatization. I think any of us have been through the management of the auditorium with public employees knows it doesn't work. And I think the critical piece to looking at a longer-term agreement is the fact that under Mill City Management, they provide set-aside funds for capital improvements for the facility, so that they're not coming back to the council to repair doors or chairs or things to that nature. They also have made significant investments in the MRT with lighting and things to that nature, and that if you're going to have a contract where you're going to continue to set aside capital funds for a long-term investment in the facility, obviously you want to know that you're going to be there, otherwise you'd use the funds. But I think more than happy to go to the subcommittee and answer all the questions and work with the council on this. I think it's a good idea to do this, and I'll meet with the council.
Council Eileen Dunham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, I understand, and the reason I didn't see a problem with sending it to a subcommittee is I understood there's another year left on the current contract, so time wasn't of the essence. But, and I certainly think that it's a good plan. As I said, I think Mill City Management has done an excellent job. And I think the idea that capital improvements are made and made at the expense of Mill City Management is a good idea. My problem is I don't have any of those figures, and I think, I'm supportive of the idea, certainly in principle and on concept, but I'd feel, just in terms of this vote, more comfortable if we were provided those figures. And so I only ask that we be provided the figures, be it through a subcommittee or a report from the manager to the council, so that we can take a vote that I think is a good one in terms of their track record. And I think if we're provided with all the information, then there should be, I would support the request.
Council Matthew Dunham.
As I understand it, the law requires us the law requires a council vote for any contract in excess of 3 years. Is that correct? So that the provision that would go in the RFP would be for a 5-year contract. And I guess the argument in reading the material and talking with the Mill City Management is that long-term commitment gets us certain things. And I think that I think we might want to look at some of the specifics as to what that gets, kind of an analysis of the 3-year to the 5-year, why longevity is a good thing for their long-term commitment, some of the contracts that they already are in under, and what they can get in the long term. I'm also interested in taking the opportunity to see how the coordination is going to be with the Arena Commission, and also kind of, I think what Councilor Donohue's getting at is some of the capital improvement. I know they want to expand their concessions and some other things in there, but what exactly is that going to be? And I think that it might be good to review through a finance subcommittee and get a report back by the next council meeting.
Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. I would also applaud the job that Mill City Management has done with respect to the auditorium. Given the dangers, however, of issuing, I think Councilor Donahue made reference to them when he talked about making sure we meet the law, given some of the charges that are sometimes leveled with respect to issuing contracts, whether it be legitimate or spurious. This is an RFP that will be going out. There is no guarantee, for example, that Mill City Management would acquire that at this stage. Is there not? I mean,
That's correct.
in other words, I want to make it clear that this is an open process, and that's one of the reasons why I think we need to, one of the issues that we need to clarify, that with all due respect to the job they've done, and it's been a very, very good one, there's no necessarily guarantee that they're going to acquire that contract given an RFP process. I do think that's a point that needs to be made at this point.
Move to send it to the Finance Subcommittee by Councilor Eileen Donahue, seconded by Councilor Matthew Donahue. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So be it. I just want to say that 10 years ago, Councilor Howe would also echo my feelings. The auditorium was nothing more than a collective of cobwebs that were brushed aside for the graduation of Lowell High School and then for the Golden Gloves. It was a building that was dormant. And when Tom McKay came along to manage that facility, we saw some first-class Broadway productions from Worldwide Federation of Wrestling to church services to name it. And
Bruce Springsteen.
yes. And I think that management firm has done an outstanding job. My colleagues in government, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I'd like to offer a moment of silence during the meeting for Teresa Early, wife of former Mayor Edward Early, Soa, a 13-year-old youngster who succumbed to the accidental drowning in Newark, Assam. Thank you.
I don't think we're done yet.
We can ask for another suspension of the rules. Move for suspension by Councilor Howe, seconded by Councilor Gendron. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The manager would like for me to read this communication. Dear Mayor and Councilors, on Wednesday, June 18th, 1997, the Council will be holding a hearing, the second hearing on the fiscal year 98 budget. I regret to inform you that I must be in San Francisco because I will be attending the Stadium Development Conference. I believe that it is imperative that I be at these hearings to be an advocate and defender of my budget. I would respectfully request the Council postpone the June 18th hearing to Monday, June 23rd, 1997. If this presents a problem, I have faith that my department heads and finance team will be able to support the budget recommendations. If you have any questions, please contact me. Yours truthfully, Brian J. Martin, City Manager. Accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Richards, second by Councilor Mulligan.
I think we should grant the recommendation
Yes,
of the request.
I think the manager should be here during the budget hearings, and it's the utmost importance. Councilor Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, if I could suspend the rules and allow a gentleman in the audience.
Let us just get over this first, and then
Okay, after
I will.
that.
Yes. Councilor Richards?
I'm scheduled to be away that period of time. Not one, perhaps alternate arrangements can be made. Is that previous Saturday potentially available, or would that be out, Mr. Manager? I believe. That may not work with my colleagues either, but
I'll be back. Yeah, actually, Diana Prideaux-Broom and myself are supposed to speak, and I'll be back Friday evening, I believe.
Mr. Mayor?
So it's up to the council. I just want to make the council aware, and I'll do whatever you want to do, but I didn't realize when you set the meeting date that Diana and I are leaving that afternoon, and I'll be back like 2 days later, so.
Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest that we have the manager work with the councilors to come up with a date that's accommodating to everybody, so that we can make sure that everybody can be there, because it's understandable that having set the dates, we may have made plans, on another date. So I think that if we ask the manager tomorrow to just coordinate, or maybe after the meeting to coordinate with everybody, see if we can come up with a date, rather than trying to hash this out right here, because it may take forever. And then we can post,
I
make that
agree. I
public.
think we should have a full contingency of the council and the manager, and, yes, David.
Just one word of caution with respect to setting the date, and that is that we have advertised for a public hearing on the 16th, so that date should remain firm. Whatever date you do, we could publicly announce a change of the second date at the first meeting, but we should hold to that first budget hearing date.
So the June 16th date is firm. We will follow with that budget hearing, and the manager, you will contact the other councilors and find out when we can. Okay. Brian, Mr. Manager? Okay, we accepted the communication, place it on file. Yes, Council Mercia.
I'd like to suspend the rules and allow a gentleman in the audience to speak
It's
about...
already, the rules are already suspended, so we can...
Okay, for the budget.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. Manager, same thing. I would like to present to you a list of 254 line items from the 1997-98 budget for your consideration. I would ask you to look them over, and before the budget hearing, then consider asking the manager at the budget hearing why the proposed cuts that I am suggesting should not be made on these line items. I am proposing to you cutting $1,470,329 from the budget. Here are a few examples. Inspectional services, health, SVC, hospital care. In 1996, they were budgeted $5,000. They spent zero. In 1997, they budgeted $5,000. As of 5/31, they spent zero. In 1998, proposed budget is $5,000. Suggest cutting $4,000. Managers DPD, economic professional development. In 1996, budgeted $10,000, spent zero. In 1997, budgeted $10,000. As of 5/31, spent zero. In 1998, proposed $10,000 budget again. Suggest cutting $5,000. Managers DPD independent audit. In 1996, $5,000 budgeted, spent zero. 97, $5,000 budgeted. As of 5/31, spent zero. 1998, $5,000 budgeted. Suggest cutting $4,000 from the budget. In 1996, we had a surplus of $3,564,736.89. In 1997, as of 4/30/97, we had a balance of $20,507,790.90. As of 5/31/97, we had a balance of $12,892,649.67. So in 1 month's time, we spent $7,625,341.23. If we spend the same amount or a little more for the next month, we should have a balance left over of $5,277,508.44. As a taxpayer, I'm asking you to look over this proposal and cut as much as you can. I cannot afford another tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor General?
I'd just like to comment on one point that the speaker made. Barbara, maybe you can answer this. I think it's a good point. Why would we have a line item in the budget that was budgeted for X, and then we didn't expend any of that money for that purpose, and then we come back the following year with the same budgeted item? I assume it was because as a result of a transfer from one line item to another line item. Am I wrong?
Well, actually, the first line item was for inspectional services, and that is actually
So
for-
just in general.
Okay, this first one, only because it was kind of interesting, $5,000. It's for if somebody has been admitted to a hospital for TB care, we're mandated to pay a certain amount and have a contract. So that has always traditionally been budgeted. We haven't used it like in 7 years, but we budget it because under Mass General Law, a certain dollar amount we are required to
Right.
pay.
Okay. So if we had a line item that had, $50,000 in it, and we spent $10,000 of it and used the other $40,000 because we had a shortfall in another line item, and we transferred the money, would we make an effort to balance that out in the next year's budget and change the appropriation to meet the actual expenditures?
In some cases, yes. In other cases, what happens is that when the money is available at the end of the year, it's used to reduce the tax rate in the following year, which is what happened this past year. The money was not spent again, it was used to keep the taxes low.
Right, the tax rate that didn't go up this year.
That's
what we're talking about.
correct.
Okay. Just want to clarify that.
That's correct. And, it doesn't happen because we cut everything to the bone. That's not the way you make a budget and think that you're going to make it through to the end of the year without any deficits.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other issues pertaining to that? At this point in time, the chair would certainly like to recognize the new Assistant City Manager, James Smith, on behalf of the City Council and the city. Jim, we wish you the best of luck in your new endeavors, and call on us if we can be any assistance, and we sure will be calling on you for your assistance as well, so congratulations.
This is my first time using this microphone, so I thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors. It's an honor to be here and to serve you folks, and I want to thank the manager for giving me the opportunity to do this job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Hall?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say a few words on a point of personal privilege. Would it be appropriate to do it now, or should I wait? It relates to an article that appeared in the local newspaper a week or so ago. It was a byline by William Topia, the member of the Lowell School Committee. And the heading was, LHS football troubles reflect deeper problems. When I began reading that article, I was optimistic that possibly Mr. Topia would go beyond the football issue and expand into other more complex issues that relate to the problem of educating youngsters in our school system. One issue related to discipline. I thought that I was disappointed that he did not raise that issue. I question whether or not we have an adequate disciplinary policy that's effective in this city. Is it something that we ought to be looking into and changing as far as youngsters are concerned? I must confess I was troubled by the lack of support on the part of some members of the Lowell School Committee who failed to support the headmaster at Lowell High School in his attempts to suspend students who were absent from school and attended a beer party. I thought that undermined the issue of discipline in our system. And I certainly was troubled by the fact that the means that we used in naming a $45 million addition to Lowell High School. As some of you may recall, over the past decade, we have constructed 10 new schools. And the sitting committees at that time created subcommittees. And the subcommittees inquired of parent-teacher organizations and interested citizens to come up with a recommendation. It's my understanding that issue never even came before never came on the agenda. It was a result of a suspension of the rules. And it was brought by some member of the committee who was running for a state office. And I felt that that was a blatant disregard of what was best for the city, and obviously was political expediency at its worst. But getting beyond that point, I was troubled by the comments that Mr. Topia made as it relates to the football issue and what had taken place and what he perceived to be the truth. As you know, I came into this issue rather late. It was some 6 or 8 weeks ago that one of them, the 10th member of the city council, and one of these ex officio members came before the group and made a suggestion that we meet with the school committee and with the regional school committee to come up with some type of a plan that would seem to put this issue to rest. I thought that it made sense, and so I made the motion that we create that ad hoc subcommittee. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, you and Councilor Eileen Donahue were members representing this council, or this body. And we had a subcommittee of the school committee, Lowell School Committee, and the regional school committee. And when that was created, I requested and obtained a transcript of what I thought was the entire proceedings that had taken place up until that time. And in reviewing the transcript, I felt that that there was an injustice that was created by the MIAA, not so much in reaching a decision that there had been some wrongdoing, but more specifically as to what the penalties were that were attached to that so-called wrongdoing. My view of the evidence, I concluded that the football coach conceded that he was not fully aware and did not understand the extent of the allegations that were brought against him, and that he was not fully aware of Rule 55 of the MIAA rules. Taking that into consideration, I think we unanimously agreed that there ought to be some type of penalty, be it a game suspension or a request that he read the rule book. But we did attend that hearing before the MIAC, and I must confess that I was rather impressed by the case that was presented by the city of Lowell, because what the evidence reflected at that hearing was that Lowell was meeting its responsibility in dealing with the very serious issue of educating youngsters. In 1985, we had 18% minority youngsters in our system. Today, it's 55% minority youngsters. I dare say not one member of that elite educational board has any more than 3 or 4% minorities attending their school system. And there's nothing wrong with minorities attending the school system, other than the fact that there's a serious challenge in how to educate these youngsters. And we well know in the city of Lowell, we had that challenge. And we easily could have taken the expedient approach and say, look, we're not going to deal with this issue. We're going to force the federal government to deal with it. And of course, that would be a suicidal approach to take. That's what happened in Boston, it happened in Yonkers, New York, and Buffalo. And look what happened to their school system. But what we did, we conciliated. We tried to deal with the issue and educate youngsters. And I think that what was brought out at that hearing was something more than just a football coach and dealing with a rule book. It dealt with 5 years of a commitment by not only the football coach, the police department, public officials, and the public in general. I think we accomplished a great deal over that 5-year period. I vividly recall, I think it was in 1992, there was a murder. A youngster was killed out off Gorham Street. It was at one of those clubs, and it was a minority youngster. And at that particular point, from that time on, everybody got off their butt and they worked hard. And they met the challenge, and they made a difference in our city. Today, we paid homage to the representatives from the All-American City group. Well, how did that come about? It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks and months and years. And all you have to do is just to slumber on your responsibilities 1 month, and you'll see what happens to a city. Look at Lawrence, look at Haverhill, look at New Bedford, Fall River. Brockton is a basket case. This city has not allowed itself to retrench. It has not allowed itself to fall into the same category as these other cities have. And one of the reasons why we have not allowed ourselves to do that is because we've worked hard. We've coordinated our services. Everybody's pitched in. And it just seemed to me, and I think and I speak for the 9 members of that group, that the penalty that was meted out in this case was similar to using a howitzer to swat a flea. It made no sense. And I think if Mr. Topia had read Mr. Galano's article the previous week, I think he would have learned a lot, because it was a similar situation that Medford was confronted with. In the city of Medford, they had a youngster that was running in the track program, a track meet, and she had a swimsuit underneath her track suit, and apparently you could see it slightly. Well, the MIAA had a rule that was not a proper dress. So what the MIAA concluded was that they were going to bar the city of Medford from attending any more track meets. Well, the youngster wrote a personal letter to the MIAA pleading with them to rescind that decision. And same in the Lowell decision, they refused to do so. Well, it appeared in the Boston Globe, and the next day the Commissioner of Education said that decision was fundamentally absurd. Well, I submit to you that the decision on the scandal issue was fundamentally absurd. It made no sense. And again, we do not deny the fact that conceding that a penalty ought to be implemented. The decision that was made in this case was totally ridiculous. And for that reason, I take strong exception to Mr. Topia's comments. They do not support the evidence as I know the evidence to be. Thank you.
Councilor Howe, in Kansas City this weekend, 29 other cities brought forward some tremendous presentations. But Lowell, Massachusetts came forward with 10 new schools, 5 schools completely renovated at a cost of $180 million. And Manager Martin will agree there wasn't too many cities who could say that. And we have stepped forward and supported the students in education, and I agree. The ruling sent down against Dennis Scannell is absurd, ridiculous. And I've been through a torture chamber on this issue ever since it first came out. And it's not been an easy role for me to hold, believe me. So, any other discussion on this? Is Councilor Eileen Dunn?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, that day, and I may have mentioned it the day we came back or not, the day we were down at the MIAA for the hearing, and I believe it was or videotaped, and I think as an elected official, but also as a resident of the city of Lowell, I was very proud to be from the city of Lowell that day, because the effort in putting aside all other issues, including putting aside the sports issue involved, I think Councilor Howe is exactly right. This was a coalition of a public-private partnership at its best, and it was the police department and people from the school and the administrators and the residents of the city, everybody working to make this city a better place to live, and recognizing and valuing kids, and everybody pitching in and doing their part, all on volunteer basis in terms of the DARE program. From my perspective and where I sat, and it isn't often that you have that opportunity to sit there and feel completely proud of the city that you live in and that you represent. And Mr. Mayor, I don't know what media was videotaping that day, but I think if as the mayor, if you could request a copy of it for future reference, because I think if people heard the testimony, they would get a true sense of what we're doing right in the city of Lowell.
I'll have Attorney Wojcik request that film or tape be sent to the school department. I'll make sure we have a copy as well. Any subcommittee reports? Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a report and notification to the council and the general public. The Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee met with specific reference to Project Red And although there appear to be some difficulties from a legal point of view, I do anticipate that the Division of Planning and Development and the Law Department will be working out a potential option to Project Red in order to move forward on dilapidated buildings. In addition to that, I would like to make the public and the council aware that on June 19th, a Thursday evening at 7:15 p.m., here in the council chambers, the subcommittee has scheduled a public evaluation of the Division of Neighborhood Services, and we would welcome and invite any member of the public to participate in that evaluation. This comes out of a motion of a month or two ago. It is our intention that we will take a look, assess where the division is, where it's headed, and make some evaluation of its performance to this point. At that meeting as well, we'll also take up the amended version of Project Red, so I would invite anyone's participation in that at that time. So that would be June 19th, a Thursday evening, 7:15 p.m., here at the council chambers.
Okay, accept the report as a report of progress by Council Mercia, second by Council Mulligan. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, if I could add to that, Peter, did you say that we were going to go over the evaluation of the Division of Neighborhood Services?
Yes, Council.
Oh, all right.
We have two petitions referred to the Law Department by Council House, seconded by Council Martin. Mass Electric Company, one pole location on House Street, public hearing June 24th. To whom it may concern, I'm faxing a petition to create a motion to be put on the agenda for the next city council meeting. I am illegally blind and have a guide dog seeing eye, and I'm concerned about safety around my home as well as a city ordinance. First, I propose a stop sign and/or crosswalk at the intersection of Reed Street and Stevens Street and 7th Street. This intersection is used very frequently, not only by myself, but St. Michael's parishioners and school children. Second, I would appreciate a city ordinance in respect to public health code, a provision that shall not penalize or apply to a guide dog, hearing dog, or service dog accompanying any person with a disability to remove any feces left on any sidewalk, gutter, street, or other public area. For this purpose of enforcing the provisions, appearance tickets may be issued by sanitation officers, dog wardens, and by any persons authorized to issue tickets for parking violations. In summary, I petition the City Council sincerely, Carrie L. Renault. And Mr. Renault, if you'd like to address the council at this point in time, feel free to do so.
First of all, Mr. Mayor, it's good to hear that you're back from Kansas City safely.
No, thank you.
I want to address the city manager, council, and I brought in some supplemental paper in addition to help what I'm about to state, make it a little bit easier to facilitate the process, and hopefully we can get this expedited. As you may be aware, that my state senator, Steve Panchotakis, is enacting legislation if it was filed, a motion could be passed this summer. And I would appreciate the city of Lowell being in compliance with the state law and also at the federal level with Marty Meehan. At this time, it would also bring back some fond memories because I think I just heard Mr. Martin, Larry Martin, brings back memories from the University of Lowell. Is that correct, Mr. Martin? With Brendan Fleming?
That's correct.
Bernie Shapiro? And Walter Costello in the Financial Aid Office, and Pat Gallagher, Mr. Christmas. I was pleased to hear your voice again. That's going back quite a long time ago. Old teaching days. Well, I brought back, and what I am proposing are basically three things. And they're not to ask you for an absorbent amount of money, as I've heard, 150 million, 140,000, so forth like that. I'm here for a safety concern, not only for myself, but a number of other people who do not get out of their home or are very, very reluctant
because they have mobility problems, and not only that, they feel that they are not in compliance and they're not being abiding by the law. All my life I have been a law-abiding citizen, and I feel very uncomfortable, though I do my best and adequately try to get my fetus from my dog and so forth. I do not feel that I should be rudely interrupted with the dog when I'm trying to be in control of him. I propose to have a crosswalk on 7th Street against Reed Street. There are ones now currently at 4th, 5th, and 6th, as well as Bethune Street. I have been appreciative for the LPD Traffic Division with Sergeant Judge Santos putting up on telephone poles with slow blind person signs, as well as today with Eric Dietrich being in touch with me and letting me know that they have already started putting in crosswalks. And they are not capable of putting in stop signs right at this particular moment because the City Council has to pass an ordinance in order for that to be done by them. I am here to ask you for that. I'm asking you to enact that before I leave tonight, as well as make me feel comfortable in knowing that will be abiding by the law and not breaking the dog code law book, as my state senator has passed in the Department of Public Health, Paul Casey. That is basically what I have to bring forth to you this evening.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manoff, for being here and bringing your petition forward. And I would suggest to the council that we forward this to the Handicap Commission as well as the traffic engineer. And the city will do everything in its power to bring forward a safety climate that you'll be happy with, and hopefully that we'll get this up as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Would you please keep me informed of the status of this? Would I have to appear here again?
I don't think it'd be necessary. I think the manager and his department staff would if you leave us your phone number and so forth, we will get in touch with you.
Okay. Yes, you have that all in my fax machine. Thank you very much, and thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Stay.
Thank you. Yes, anyone else like to speak on that issue?
I'm Eric Dietrich, the traffic engineer. And today, Tom Belfew put the crosswalk in. It's been put in. And as I told Carrie, there's been a stop sign has been painted on the cement on the street. With passing an ordinance next week, the package that goes through the council, you guys will put up a stop sign. Everything will be in place, everything. Right now, the stop sign is not required because the stop sign, again, is painted in the cement. When the snow comes, yes, you need a stop sign because the stop sign will get covered up, but by that time, the stop sign will be erected.
Are you telling me that in the council that everything has been put in place?
Yes, except for the stop sign. That's
Except for
all.
the stop sign?
Yeah, but the stop sign it's just a paperwork. Once the ordinance gets passed next week, it'll boom, it'll go up.
Okay.
So everything's in place.
Thank you. Council Mulligan?
Do we need to amend the dog ordinance that we have?
First of all, I'll have to check to be certain as to what I know there is mention in there of seeing eye dogs and so forth, special dog. I'm not certain whether it is. Certainly, I'm sure that no enforcement officer is going to enforce any violation by a handicapped person.
I would hope not.
But certainly, we'll look at it, and if it need be addressed, we'll address it.
Great, thank you.
I must say every dog in the city should be as well trained as that dog is.
city do's and don'ts of the guide dog, because I do understand that not many people have encountered guide dogs. And they must understand that you do not stroke them on the heads, you do not feed them. All they need to have is the respect and the dignity that they have earned. And that is to ask their master, ask their owner, what you would like to do with the dog. And they will tell you whether it's appropriate or not.
Okay. Mr. Renaud, we'll address your concerns and also the issue about the dogs. Gateway Center, 19 Palmer Street, requests appeal of denial of curb cut, public hearing, June 24th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, members of the council. My name is Fred Faust. I'm with the Meg Companies. I reside at 25 Clark Road in Lowell. As we understand it, this is a procedural vote. The city ordinance does not allow a curb cut of greater than 35 feet. This was a mechanism apparently where there were some controversial curb cuts and the city council wanted to have the benefit of reviewing the curb cuts before a final vote was made. So the procedure here is to petition the DPW. The DPW denies the request by ordinance, and then it comes before the city council, who has final discretion to make this vote. The plan we have for Gateway Center that was previously recommended by our engineer, approved by the traffic engineer for the city, the planning board, the city engineer, basically calls for 3 separate curb cuts. The first and largest curb cut is in the Church Street, Green Street area, which allows access to the property and 1 lane coming out in this direction. There's a second curb cut in the Warren Street area. Again, ingress, egress, and a third curb cut in the George Street area, 1 lane again. The largest curb cut here is in excess of 150 square feet. This is good engineering practice, and this was recommended again by all of the respective boards of the city engineer, and our own traffic engineer.
Okay, there'll be a public hearing June 24th pertaining to that issue. The last petition, Attorney Brian Shea for Bradford and Darlene Council, 498 Lakeview Avenue, request purchase lot 460 Lakeview Avenue, referred to the city manager by Council Richards, seconded by Council Martin. We can suspend the rules one more time this evening. Move to suspend by Council Matthew Donahue, seconded by Council Mercier. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Suspensions are in order. Suspend the rules for Pioneer Liquors, Macedo Fish Market, 421 Central Street. Request 2 15-minute parking signs, referred to traffic engineer. We are now under the agenda of topic of motions. Motion by Council Mulligan. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department place another handicap spot in front of St. Anthony's Church, seconded by Council Martin.
Speak for itself.
Motion speaks for itself. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Council Mulligan. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department place a handicap spot in front of the Portuguese American Center on Charles Street, seconded by Council Mercier.
Again, speaks for itself.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, adopted. Motion by Council Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the police traffic division report on the number of tickets issued for no parking here to corner violations at Clementi Park, seconded by Council Richards.
Mr. Mayor, if I could have those 2 next motions together, could I do the
Okay.
2 at once? Because they go
Second
at-
motion by Council Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department paint yellow striping on the curb stones at corners in front of Clementi Park.
Okay.
Seconded by Council Richards again.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, on September 21st, 1996, 9 months ago, I requested through a motion a no parking here to corner sign on Middlesex Street in front of Clemente Park. It would be very interesting to know how many tickets were given out to violators. There has not been a day that hasn't gone by that I haven't seen 2, 3, and even 4 cars parked along that no parking here to corner, and never have I ever seen any tickets on their windshield. If we were to take and ticket the violators, the revenue would be awesome, and we could probably fund a substation for a year. And I'm not saying that let's go full tilt, but this is a safety issue here. But my concern is, how is it possible that a substation is so very close, and yet not one ticket that I have ever seen was issued on a windshield, that at least that I know about? This is a public safety issue. I want the cars out of there, and I want them out of there before anybody gets killed. We have enough tragedy in this city. If finding them sends a message, then so be it. Which brings me to the second part of this motion, that if a sign isn't enough to make people understand that no parking here to corner means that, then I would suggest yellow striping on the curb to show that you don't park here along the yellow curbing. This is a main thoroughfare. It's a congested area. We need to enforce this law. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and any opposed, the motion carries. Motion by Council Minister, City Council requests the city manager eliminate funds in the fiscal year 98 budget for the mini revaluation. I'll second.
I'll second for
Go ahead.
discussion.
On the motion, Mr. Mayor, the law allows us to go up 2.5%. That is what is meant by Proposition 2.5. To go up 4.5% more by trying to justify it with a mini reval is a slap in the face to every taxpayer in this city. It's bad enough to have a reevaluation every 3 years, but to reval in an off year is uncalled for, in my opinion. You can't raise value just for the sake of raising value. Value is what a willing buyer is willing to pay a seller. So you can raise the assessment all you want. It doesn't mean that a person selling will get the true value anyways. You stated, Mr. Manager, that taxes will not go up this year. You're absolutely right. They won't go up this year, because the year ends on December 31st. That's called a calendar year. But when January comes and my tax bill comes in, I'll be in the poor farm. People on a fixed income will be there also. I know what it's like to be on a fixed income right now. Young couples with small children who recently bought homes, young couple with children who rent, that are going to absorb the cost, the burden of this cost, will also be in the poor farm right along with me. We don't all make $90,000 a year in this city. This city is a city of modest means, of modest income. Now, you can say that property taxes remained the same last year. They did. So does it justify raising them this year? We got a windfall last year. 1.6 million went back to offset the tax rate last year, due to, in my estimation, an overinflating of the 96 budget. But the year before, I will remind you that the taxes went up sky high in Upper Belvedere and the Upper Highlands. So who's going to get targeted this time? Will it be the same people? Or will it be South Lowell, Centerville, the Lower Highlands, this time the poorer sections? Or are we going to cut the budget like we should and eliminate the money from the overlay account from for the mini reval? Now, I asked the city auditor for the recapitulation sheets for the past 5 years, and I have that, and I went over it very, very carefully. And I'll try to give you a little bit of how everything went up. In 1992, the tax rate was $11.15. In 93, $13.76. In 94, $14.81. In 95, $16.90. 96, $19.19, and that's what it is right now. When you look at the recap sheet in 1993-94 fiscal year, the percentage of the residential taxpayers base was 60.82%. I'm trying to bring it as close as I can. The value of a assessed property was $2,343,311,063. The tax rate was $14.81 per thousand. What we paid out in actual tax dollar was $34,704,436.84. The water bill was $4,925,000. The water bill in the 1995-96 fiscal budget was $6,870,978.52. That went up $2 million. Now, the valuation of their homes, the residential taxpayer had to pay 62.32%. That's on the recap sheet for the 95-96 fiscal year budget. When I said it was valued at $2 billion in 93-94, went down. The valuation went down $1,980,672,507. This is probably all Greek, but if you can hear what I'm saying in it, the figures are in front of you like I went over very carefully. People's share of the taxes, they paid $38,900,106.77 as compared to the valuation being $1 billion and we pay in $37 million. So to break all this gobbledygook down, I'll try to be specific and break it down for you. Since 1993 till 1997, we're paying $3 million more in the taxes, we're paying $2 million more in the water, and we're paying $1.3 million off of a bailout bond that we're paying every year. So what I'm saying to you is, how much more are you going to ask from us? I don't know how much more we can take. So the purpose of this motion is to send a message and offer a challenge to my colleagues that if we agree to eliminate the money set aside from the reval, then we will be committed to cutting more out of the budget. This is a challenge that I'm offering. Now, I was told not to make this motion and to bring it up at budget time, but I don't want to do that. It's too late at budget time. I want to bring it up now so that I'm giving you 6 more days to go over and really scrutinize the budget, which I think is what we should do. To leave the money in means that we're in favor of increasing the valuation and raising the taxes on people's property by getting around 2.5. I don't think I, as a counselor, want to get around anything. You know that if you put an override on the agenda, on the voters, they wouldn't vote for this. So, I mean, I welcome your comments, but I am requesting a roll call on this motion.
Just briefly on the water, I believe that's wastewater and utility water as well. And I think the federal government has forced the city to come up with ways and means. I think Councilor Martin could probably answer that better than I. Ways and means of improving the environment as far as the wastewater facility is concerned. But Manager Martin, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I think Barbara can talk a little bit about the mini reval. We have no intention of going around 2.5. We live within the law. And the last time I checked, your taxes went down, Councilor Mercia, okay? And it was because of the evaluation and the way the numbers work. If you look at tax rates, those really don't mean as much as what you actually pay, because the tax rate is calculated on the values and everything is relevant. It's your total tax bill that really is what counts. But what we're trying to do is present a budget to the City Council. You're the Board of Directors. If there are cuts, we live with the cuts. I present a budget that I think is in the best interest of the city. All the department heads will be here. We have a good, healthy debate, and that's why one of the reasons I suggested that we reschedule so that I can be here for the entire debate on the budget. It's the major responsibility of the City Council. And I will be here to defend each one of the budgets, the reasons that we have positions and programs and all the things that I think the people in this community have come to expect. I don't expect the budget to sail through. I think we'll have a good, healthy debate. Maybe some things will be cut, maybe some things won't be. But I think it's a very good budget that represents what Lowell is all about. Earlier, Councilor Howe talked about a number of other communities. That's not us. I think Lowell brings an awful lot to the citizens, and you have to balance what it costs with what you can bring in for revenue. So I think that's the reason you have a budget discussion. The mini revale does not circumvent the 2.5, not at all. And I'd ask Barbara to talk a little bit about that, if she could.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is the second time you've mentioned override. You mentioned override in another council meeting, Councilor. We have never brought up, nor do we intend to ask for an override, Proposition 2.5.
You wouldn't get it.
We never asked for one.
You wouldn't get
The
it.
only word that ever comes out of you, it's out of your side. It never comes from our side, Councilor. Also, you bring up the fact that the proportion of the residential value is getting larger. And that's because we don't have as many businesses here in Lowell, which is why Virginia Dolliff's job is so important to the city, to sustain business and to bring more business value in. And we can see that our Economic Development Committee is so active, and it's very important. That's the most important job we have, is to bring more business in to help keep the taxes down for the residential consumer. The mini revals is actually in the current year budget, not in next year's budget. It's already been out for bid. The contract was awarded in March. There is a triennial reval that's required under Mass General Law that's in FY98 budget, and it's going to be paid for by overlay surplus within the budget for next year. There's no way we can get around that. The state would actually come down and force us to do it if we didn't have it in the budget.
Councilor Howe.
Would seem to me that under our system, at least the way that I understand it to operate, the manager has submitted his budget. So it's our responsibility to either accept or reduce. We can't add on. May I suggest that we refer the motion to the special meeting that we're having on the budget and deal with the issue at that time. I'm certainly in favor of making cuts that are fair and reasonable. And to some extent, I don't enjoy the business of adjusting tax bills to the extent that there are substantial increases, even though we say we're not adding to the budget. We do have a tax rate that's quite high, and it's something we have to deal with, and we have to deal with it very, very quickly because of the problems that people face in our society today and in this city. But having said that, it seems to me the most prudent approach would be to refer it to the council, to the committee as a whole that will deal with the budget. So I would make that motion.
On June 16th. Seconded by Councilor Matthew Donohue. On the Councilor Eileen Donohue, then Councilor.
Just a quick question, and this is just a follow-up to Barbara's comments. As I understand Councilor Mercier's motion, she's requesting that we eliminate funds proposed in the next year's budget for a mini reval. And did you just say there are no funds in the next proposed budget for a mini reval?
That's right. It's in the current year budget. A mini reval is currently in process, and it's a very small amount.
And
like
there's no,
15,000.
I mean, you've given us the budget. You don't intend to propose a mini reval in the next year's budget.
There's actually a triennial reval that's required under Mass General Law that's proposed in next year's budget. It's 150,000.
But I guess the mini reval is something that is not required by general laws,
That's
but
correct.
can be done at the discretion of the city. So there isn't a mini reval proposed for 98 budget.
That's
right.
correct.
All right. I just want to clarify because, and I think Councilor Mercier as did I, understood that there may have been a mini reval proposed in the next budget, and you're telling us that's not the case. So maybe that issue is moot, but as far as the other issues, the budget issues, certainly I think raised. I don't think anyone wants to see taxes go up, go sky high, and nobody wants to be in the poorhouse, and nobody intends to do that. So I think all those comments should be referred to the budget hearings.
Councilor Gendron, and then Councilor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just we obviously want the value of our property to be as close to the real value as possible, and I think that's the reason for valuation. And I assume, I'm not sure, but I assume there has got to be laws and regulations around how we value property. I mean, we can't just go out and say, oh yeah, your house is worth $200,000 because we need more money. You know, am I wrong in thinking that
You're
there's...
absolutely right. There are laws, and we're not going out indiscriminately. Actually, they look at properties, they look at all the business properties to determine what the values are. It is not across the board. Some areas will go down, some will rise.
Okay. You know, it seems to be every election year, the strategy is the same. We come down here, we throw all kinds of figures around, and we make it look like we're just absolutely throwing money out the window down here. And, you know, I'm here to tell you that that is not true. I've been through 3 budget hearings now, and it's hard work. We go through every line item. We try to understand, as counselors, we have a responsibility to try to understand why we're spending the money, what it's for, and if there's an increase, why there's an increase. And I think, you know, we've done a pretty good job over the past 3 years to try and cut as much as we could. And I think if you look at history, you'll find out that the past 3 councils have cut more than the average council, more than most councils. So, you know, if we look back at the last 3 years, certainly 2 and 3 years ago, there was an inordinate tax increase in this city. But the tax increase was not because of increased city spending, or not because of city spending at all. If you look at city spending over the past 3 or 4 years, what you'll find out is that it's been very, very small increase. In fact, probably less than cost of living. The city spending has gone up. The reason for the tax increase of 2 and 3 years ago is because of a huge, unprecedented loss in income from our commercial industry in the city. So the council at that time, and this council has supported it, looked at that and said, holy cow, we can't have this. We have to do something about this. We have to have a strategy that's going to rebuild that economic base. And that we set out on that mission, we've stuck to that mission, we've driven to that mission, and it's working. We've seen now, showing results, it's working. And by the way, last year, the council sat here and said, you know, we realized that we've had this problem over the past 2 years. Wang left the city, took $20 million with it. We've had to heap that burden unfairly on the citizens of Lowell, but we had no other choice. Let's make sure in this fiscal year that we don't have a tax increase. And the manager went about creating a budget, setting a tax rate that supported that. No tax increase. I didn't see a headline that said, council approves no tax increase for fiscal year 97. I didn't see anybody coming to the mic and saying, great job, no tax increase, something that doesn't happen very often in any city or town. But now, here we are sitting in the air looking forward to the budget, making all of these accusations, coming up with these wild statements that there's going to be this percent, that percent tax increase. We have a lot of work to do with the budget. We have to see where the valuation comes in. We have to see what our revenues look like. And at that time, the manager will set, and the council will set a tax rate. That's when we'll know what the tax increase or non-increase will be for next year. But for right now, we just have to take a look at the budget, go through it line item by line item, try to make as many cuts as we can, many cuts that are warranted, but also keeping the city operating and thinking about investing in our future, making the city with a city with a quality of life that are going to attract people, attract businesses, so that we all have, you know, stable taxes in the future. And by the way, even though our tax rate is high when you compare it to other cities and towns, that's only half of the equation here. If you look at our tax burden in the city, and all of us have received a booklet from the Mass Municipal Association that shows the tax burden in cities and towns all across Massachusetts, what you'll find is that the city is well below average as far as tax burden goes when compared to cities and towns in Massachusetts. So I think to come down here and create all kinds of hysteria that, oh my God, taxes are out of control, the city's out of control, the manager's throwing money out the window, is irresponsible. It's just not what we're elected to do. So, you know, let's be honest about this and let's look at the budget and do the best we can. That's all we can do.
Councilor Matthew Dennehy, then Councilor Mercer.
I think Councilor Gendron's comments really get to the point where, you know, this is wisely referred to the budget debate, because I think that is the appropriate time to flesh a lot of this out. But it's a significant issue, and it goes to the very kind of core of the budget discussion. We can cut budgets, and we can evaluate property values. Now, we hire professionals to do that, and I was wondering if you could explain the difference between these mini revals and then the triennial valuation that's done. And why do we do these mini revals?
The last time one was done was approximately 3 years ago, when we saw, we were coming out of the late 80s into the 90s, and we had had a full-blown evaluation done of the city, and they had looked at what the property was selling for in the 80s, which was astronomical. As everyone knows, the values went sky high, and then all of a sudden we started with the 90s, and we hadn't gotten to the full 3-year mark yet, and we saw that the values, it wasn't just in Lowell, but across the state, started to fall. And we needed to look at it quickly because our overlay surplus, which is our allowance for abatements and exemption, was being used up so fast, people came in and were requesting abatements in their property, which is not true right now, actually. We've had a real reduction in our provision, our people that are applying for the provision for abatements and exemption. We don't see the value being inflated. We see it the other way now, in that people that are selling their homes are selling it for higher than what we have them evaluated for. Not in all cases, not in all neighborhoods. But some of the businesses we're seeing substantially higher sales than what we had it assessed for. So we need to recognize that.
So basically, if you never did any revals, people would come in through the door seeking an abatement, okay, if you assume that values go up, and that we pay for that in that overlay account. So we pay out that way if we don't do any kind of periodic revaluations.
That's right.
Now I know this happened in Newark, New Jersey. They still are under 1954 values, and they're afraid the community will not revalue its property because they're concerned about this dramatic increase in taxes and what it would do to people. But at the same time, all the abatements are coming in, and they just get state aid for that. My point is this, that local property tax is 29% of the revenue that comes into the city. So as painful as it is to pay those property tax bills, that's 30%. That means another 60 some odd percent 70% comes roaring in from other sources that we get subsidized, 54% from state aid. Just by our address, that dollar that we pay in property taxes is being matched by a couple of bucks from another source, so that we get more money than back in that state income tax that you might pay than someone living in another community. So the solution to the problem, and it's not relevant at budget time, is our economic development agenda. At this point in time, it would appear that this reval money in the 98 budget then is for a revaluation that we're required to do by law, the triennial reval. And that's of all property or commercial, residential, condo, how does
All
that break down?
properties.
All properties. Now the mini reval that we're about to do, what is that going to be of? Council Mercy asked certain questions. Is it, we're going to target a neighborhood or a type of property?
No. It looks at all neighborhoods. It looks at all business. It's more statistical analysis. We look at the sales report by neighborhood because we have every neighborhood broken out. Where I live is probably 6 or 7 different neighborhoods, and probably the same thing where you live. And there's pockets of value, and they look at it and do a statistical analysis. Much more so for a $15,000 reval than they would for a $150,000 reval. For a $150,000 reval, they'll look at sales. They'll look at every single business. They'll visit every single business. For example, Maycom sold for substantially more than our assessed value, and you probably were aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want. We want to recognize those.
And so that when we do it next year, the hope is that there's some stability and that we're catching the values so that we're assessing people in terms of their taxes on the closest value that we can get to at that particular time. And we've even shrunk the neighborhoods down into kind of subgroups of Belvedere and the Highlands and Pawtucketville, South Lowell. Okay.
Councilor Martin, Councilor Mercy, and then Councilor Mulligan.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to ask Barbara a couple of questions about the wastewater and water issue. As Councilor Mercier indicated, it is costing the taxpayer about $2 million more now in 1996 as opposed to 1992. I'd like to ask you, we're making $2 million more in money now selling water and sewage. Could you give me just the ball? I know the answer. I feel like a lawyer asking the people, you know, did you drive the car? Because I know what the answer is, but I just want to get it on the record.
Actually,
I mean, notwithstanding the, you know, the father of the president of the Bar Association.
actually, there's a large increase in the cost with the water department because the state and federal mandates that have come down have been incredible. There's probably been a 20% increase in the cost for running the water department. The sewer department has been subsidized by the tax rate forever, and that also had a number of federal and state mandates. But we also, both plants are very well run. We're running with probably 30% fewer people than we were 12 years ago. A big difference.
But the difference that I want everyone to understand is that it's you pay me now or you pay me later. The bottom line on it is the water and sewer facilities were operating at a loss of at least $4 to $5 million back in 92, 90, in that year. So, and the taxpayers were paying for them in their taxes. It was nice and painless. You could sit here on the city council floor and everybody would feel real good about our low water and tax rate. But that is a specious issue because the bottom line on it is we were paying that money, but we were paying it out of another account. The second thing is when you start talking about the amount of increase based on federal mandates, that's a big issue. But even more to the point is it's now fairer for the homeowner that places like St. John's Hospital, the university, and all these other places begin to pay their proportionate fair share for these things. Because up until that point, whether you lived in in Belvedere, Pawtucketville, the Highlands, wherever you lived in the city, you were subsidizing those major users of those water and sewer things to the tune of about $3.5 million, or a percentage thereof, because they're the ones that use the great amounts of water and all the rest of it. So, I mean, it isn't just an easy thing that you can say, you know, it's $2 million higher. It's $2 million higher because now we have begun to move the burden of paying them away from the taxpayer in reality and onto those people who are using the particular water and so forth. That makes good business sense. If it doesn't, then we're not doing our job. But the bottom line on it is there's no easy answer to that particular issue. This is a service that we really depend on. I don't know who the city manager, I think when we were interviewing people from for the position back what seems like a long, long time ago, one of them was talking about the two things that you had to provide. First was the fact that there are police on the street and you don't have chaos and fire protection. The second thing was that the water runs. If it doesn't, then I think we have a real serious problem. And I think we can be very proud of the way that the operation is run and also the value that is given to the taxpayer. And I think the fact that the $2 million billing is being done in a different manner is to the taxpayer's advantage. It's not an additional burden that has been placed on them for any reason.
Councilor Mercier?
Well, let me bring you back to the day when you got one tax bill and everything was included in it. Now you got wastewater, you got water, you got trash, you got a tax bill, and all these bills are coming in. I'm just simply saying that we can bond and spend till the cows come home and make this city look even better. But I'm saying put a lid on everything that we have. We have to calm down with our spending. You can bond money, fine. You have to pay the interest for the first 2 years. Then after that is completed, the 2 years, then you got to pay the principal. I'm simply saying let's watch the budget. Let's be very careful. And I'm looking at page 15 of the budget where it says assessors, and I'm looking under professional service evaluation. Is that for a 3-year by state law reevaluation of our property, or is that a mini reval figure?
No, that's for a triennial revalue, as well as the relist remeasure. So there's $40,000 in there for relist remeasure that we're doing over 6 years.
Well, I hope the taxpayers don't get, you know, and I hate to say the T word. Yeah, it's an election year, but I would have said the same thing last year, and I'll say the same thing next year if I can. You know, we got to watch our money. I have to do it at home. We have to do it here. So I don't feel guilty about saying that, God forbid, T word. Yes, I am a taxpayer too, and I'm speaking for myself. And you see, Paul, that come up to the microphone, showing us all these figures here, and yeah, we got to be very careful. You know, I feel this very strongly. I don't make $90,000 a year. I know the people out there. I get the calls from the people that are on a fixed income, and I'm very, very concerned about giving an extra burden to people that are going to be one step in the shelter or one step in public housing, and I'm thinking about them.
Council Mercier, I don't make 90,000 or anywhere close to 90,000.
No, I don't.
Council Mulligan.
Nor do I, or anywhere close to that. And I think every member on this council is very well aware that there are people out there who make far less than $90,000 and will do what's appropriate to cut where they feel necessary to cut and to limit taxes going up, as we did last year. In fact, we didn't raise taxes last year, and I'm sure that the council will do everything in its power to continue that. Let me just ask, just to straighten this all out, there is in fact no monies in this budget for next year's reval,
There is only for the triennial reval, not for mini reval. That's right.
which you just talked about. We signed a contract back in March, so that was in last year's budget.
Right.
And can you please tell me what it cost us for that contract?
$15,000.
15? 1-5?
1-5.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll chime in too, I guess, tonight. I don't make $90,000. Not that I'm sure that that's necessarily
But you
relevant.
get the whole summer off.
That is particularly relevant tonight. Someone once said there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. There are a lot of numbers that get thrown around tonight and have been thrown around over the course of last year. I think fundamentally the issue is this council responsible? And I fundamentally believe, after serving here for about a year and a half, that we are. I know I am. I take very seriously the responsibility that's given to me by the voters to look out for the budget. I don't just slough that off. I do take it seriously. And every time I come in here on a Tuesday night, I look at it with that eye. Because I'm not wealthy. But I also don't believe I'm irresponsible. And I haven't been irresponsible. And I don't think this council's been irresponsible. And I think that is fundamental. We will look at that budget. I have every intention, and I know my colleagues have every intention, of looking at that budget, and where we believe cuts can be made without doing significant damage to services that need to be provided, I think we'll do that. And that's really the bottom line, and I think we're all prepared to do that.
The motion, Councilor Jenner?
Yeah, I just want to say also that I am certainly very concerned about the budget. I also pay taxes. I have a family of 6 to feed at last count. And, you know, taxes are very important to me. I don't want to pay any more than I have to, and I am very open to input from everybody, and I get the input from everybody about keeping the taxes under control. We want to do it. We also have to keep our city afloat and heading toward the future. So when I talk about responsibility, I'm talking about, yeah, we all want to come down here and do our best with this budget and make sure we keep taxes in check, but we also, it's irresponsible, I think, to come down here and make insinuations that spending is going wild and crazy here, and that's why your taxes are going up. That's what I'm talking about, irresponsibility. To come down here and say that, you know, because we had a 2% surplus last year, that's, the city's been overtaxed. That's just not true. It's just not true. So that's what I'm talking about with responsibility. And certainly, when it comes to the budget, I do my homework as well, and we all need to make sure that we keep taxes under control.
The motion is referred to the committee as a whole at the budget hearings. believe it was moved by Councilor Matthew Donohue, seconded by Councilor Eileen Donohue. Let's move on with the agenda. Motion by Councilor Mulligan. City Council requests the city manager of the property department trim the tree branches in the downtown area to allow the loading zones, etc. signs to be visible. Seconded by Councilor Howe.
Mr. Manager, if I had stated earlier that perhaps people are parking in loading zones because they're covered by the trees. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, let's say. But also, many of the trees are covering handicap signs. And I have this feeling that, again, people may not be seeing the handicap sign there and feel that that's an open space for just anybody to park. So if we could trim those branches so that it's very clear to everybody that a handicap spot is there for those who are handicapped. Thank you.
Councilor Matthew Denham.
Would we, I assume the council is going to support this because it's a good motion, but looking ahead in my history here, we've had some beautiful tree surgery in this town, and I'm wondering if this is something that we would farm out or do internally. Who trims the trees currently? I mean,
Actually, it's kind of half and half. We have some of our staff do some, and we have a private contractor do some. It depends on the type of tree and the particular areas and things. Most of the downtown, I believe, is done privately.
All right. Okay. Well, if we
But
could
we do what we've
attend
done.
to that, we...
Actually, we've recently, because one of the private contractor butchered some birch trees at Kittredge Park, we now have Jane Calvin involved with the tree trimming.
All right, that's good. There was a famous butchering for the garden club in Belvedere as well.
Right, and they, as well as what's happening at Tyler Park, she's involved with that private contractor to make sure that they do it right. And
Councilor General.
I was just going to mention, it's my understanding that there's been some education provided by the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust and Jane Calvin for the city on the proper way to prune and not butcher trees.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Councilor Richards. City Council requests the city manager report on the disturbances in the University Avenue and Sarah Avenue areas. Seconded by Councilor Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have received some phone calls from one resident in particular, and I believe Councilor Eileen Donahue has as well. This is a continuing problem, and many of the problems down in that area can be traced to one particular building or one particular owner. I have had discussions with our new assistant city manager, and he assures me, based on the reports that he has, that the city is attempting to take some very stringent action with respect to this property, and I would hope and certainly anticipate that that would continue. One of the issues, however, that is raised, and the university does an enormous amount of good in this community, but I think they've really dropped the ball in this case. It is apparently university students who are creating the disturbances. It's my understanding that the building owner is an employee of the university, and the university, frankly, has not done the job that I believe they should have. I think that they need to be far more aggressive. There was a meeting of the Collegiate Relations Subcommittee some time ago dealing with this very issue, and it was my understanding that representations were made, or I believe I remember representations being made by the university, that they would be monitoring this situation considerably more carefully and considerably more aggressively than they have at this point. And what we're doing now is, I think they haven't. And I think that the city needs to make it clear to the university that the university has been a good neighbor in a variety of ways, and for that they deserve our thanks. At the same time, there are certain ways where they're falling down on the job, and we need to make it clear to them that in the cases of their students, and perhaps even their employee, who is acting irresponsibly, they need to take stronger action, and it is my hope that they can do that, because frankly we have a situation which is in many ways untenable for these neighbors. I don't think that's responsible on their part. I think the city needs to do as much as it can, but I think the university needs to step up to the plate and do what they can as well.
Councilor Mercier, then Councilor Martin.
Mr. Mayor, I received a call in regard to this motion. Usually the calls come in during the school year with wild parties, neighborhood disturbances, and once school ends, the neighborhood breathes a sigh of relief. They're gone back home, and it's refreshing again. but not this year. It seems that school is out and the new problems are starting now. This isn't the name of the same person that got a hold of me last year. It's a very brand-new person, and we did address the same house, the same problem last year. This is a person that owns this building, that works at the university and lives in Chelmsford. In my personal opinion, his main concern is money, and he shows lack of concern about the quality of life for his neighbors. The neighbors called this man and asked him if he could come down and speak to these people here that he was renting to. He charges a high amount of money. One person couldn't move in there. They have to share the expenses, so one person probably goes for the apartment and then brings in 5 other people. This is a very bad concern here. But on investigating it a little bit further, I would like to know Sarah Avenue is located in what type of zoning? Is it zoned single family or 2-family on that street? If it is, then why is he allowed to make an apartment in the attic? I want to know who allowed him to do that, and was a permit ever issued? Because I'm told that it's a 3-family, and I don't know if he's allowed to do that. So if we could check on that also.
Council Martin?
In answer, it isn't, it wasn't, and it shouldn't. Not necessarily in that order. But the bottom line on it is the particular structure they're talking about, in reality, varies between a 3- and 4-family most of the time during the school year. And there's 2 houses in that area. They've been historic with that situation as illegal rooming houses. We have 2 other areas that have single houses. But they've actually calmed down a bit in the past. I don't know whether they've changed hands or what, but we historically have 3 different homes or houses in those areas that have a problem with this, and I think the new assistant city manager will get his indoctrination with the inspectional service area by trying to find out the maze of exactly what takes place in that area. But the people over there, they put up with an awful lot and have for a number of years, and I know what the answer should be, but I don't have the authority to do it.
Councilor Richards?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Councilor Martin's mention of the assistant city manager, some of the questions that are posed by Councilor Mercier, in fact, the assistant city manager may, in fact, have answers to. I'm not sure he's prepared to deal with that this evening, but maybe if he could enlighten us if he is ready.
We have had numerous conversations with the owner, not the owner, but the resident complaining about the situation on Sarah Avenue. He has called many of the councilors. The code department has inspected the property twice within the past 3 weeks. The first time was on a complaint received directly to the code department. The second inspection was as a follow-up to the calls that the councilors have sent to the manager's office. The property has occupancy permits on 4 apartments, so it is currently used as a 4-unit building. All the permits are up to date and valid. We have a zero-tolerance policy as far as the police department goes with this property at this point. The minute the police department is dispatched to this location, they are asked to disperse any and all people that do not belong in that property. We believe we're on top of the situation. We spoke with the resident in question that was having some concerns with the property today, and he said the past weekend was very quiet. Actually, the residents of the property came to him and had a conversation and asked how they could be better neighbors to him. So we still have a problem with that particular landlord, and there is no guarantee that these problems won't return in the fall when we have a different set of tenants that are occupying this property. So we've had discussions with Dean Ellen Duggan from the university, and are encouraging her and the university to have continuing conversations with their employee, encouraging him to take responsibility for his property.
Could I ask a question? That's really news. It's a 4-family now? That's magic, because 3 years ago it wasn't.
I'll follow up on what the zoning allows for. I've been informed that there are 4 permits issued on that property.
See the paper trail on that one.
I echo Councilor Martin's feelings. Jim, can we also have the building department inspect the building if it's, require sprinkler heads and things of that nature? And if it doesn't meet all the requirements for human habitation, shut them down. That's my feelings, and I think that's the feelings of the council. So, Councilor Eileen Dunham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few comments, and I know that many of us spoke with the resident, and I know the city, including the police department and Mr. Smith and so forth, have been trying to respond to the situation out there. It does seem unfair that the residents have to put up with this on kind of like a seasonal or cyclical basis. You know, they live in their homes year-round, and yet they wait for the onslaught once or twice a year and hope it passes sooner than later. This is just a comment, and I don't know that the university has changed its policy, but when we were in these discussions last year about this time, or a little earlier, I think it was in the spring when it came to the neighborhood subcommittee, we had talked about with the university that they weren't able to tell exactly where their students were living on a local basis, so that we couldn't track through the university, for instance, if 20 students were living in an apartment illegally, because as Councilor Mercier says, one person may rent it and then a whole lot more move in, which could prove to be obviously a violation of zoning. You know, one suggestion we made then to Dean Duggan, I believe, is if they could somehow have students report to them not just their mailing address for tuition bills, but where they're going to be staying locally, so that the university has knowledge of where their students are. It may help too in these types of problems, so that when the police go or inspectional services or anybody responds, you know who's living there. At least the university knows where their students are locally. According to the information we were given last year, they didn't have a local address for students necessarily. It was really where their home bill was mailed. So that might be another suggestion, certainly in terms of an effort to help the neighborhood situations between the city and university.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and any opposed, the motion is adopted. Motion by Councilor Richards. City Council requests the city manager have the property department examine outdoor advertising. Seconded by Councilor Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of particular concern, the thing that started me off on this was walking around my neighborhood and noticing signs placed on telephone poles. One of the firms, and admittedly I might have need of their services, is for example, Diet Magic. I'm not so sure that this is entirely appropriate, however, as a vehicle to advertise what I'm sure are absolutely wonderful services. And this, it seems, comes up in the spring. There are also various companies, I guess, across the city who will provide temporary jobs or jobs where you can earn $400 stuffing envelopes or whatever it happens to be. I just don't believe that it particularly lends to the air, the atmosphere we're trying to create in the city, as we have all of these people using these firms or using these telephone poles as advertisements. And I would make it very clear, my intention is not, for example, to target some of these nonprofit groups that are trying to advertise various activities that they have going on, although I would make a request that after they put these handbills up, they take them down. My problem is more these virtually semi-permanent signs that are erected on the telephone poles, and I really do think they're a problem. If necessary, I'll engage in vigilante justice and start trying to rip them down myself, but it's actually pretty easy, because they do you the courtesy of actually putting a phone number on it so you can get in touch with them and tell them exactly what it is you think about it. So that was certainly one of it. The other thing that also occurred to me is, and this obviously is a little bit early, but as we're coming up on a political season, I would just ask that the appropriate departments address the issues that surround signs. We all know in political season things can go crazy, and the sign situation gets to be really out of hand, or can potentially get to be out of hand. And I would just ask if the appropriate departments could be, as we come up to that season, be a little bit more attentive to some of those issues as they come in.
I would suggest that the Election Commission pass out with every candidate for an elected office. There's an ordinance, and there's a fine. And I would suggest that the Election Commission pass that communication forward to all candidates, so they'll know the rules and regulations.
Well, we should request that they enforce the ordinance.
Well,
What is the fine, if I may ask? Do we know?
David, did you know what the fine?
Dave, can we get some information on that, what the fine is? I know it's not, you're not supposed to put signs up to like 15 days before the election, is that correct?
There is a time limit with respect to both putting them up and taking them down.
Right.
At my fingertips, I don't have the dates, but sure, we'll give you a report or a summary of what it says so that you'll have it.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. Motion by Council General, City Council requests the city manager provide an update on the challenge to the baseball stadium construction contract. Seconded by Council Howe.
So I would request that we meet in executive session immediately following this meeting to discuss this motion. I'll make that as a motion.
Seconded by Council Richards. We take a...
Well, I guess the only question I have is, I don't think there's anything more than we already know about it, is there?
Well, what I was going to address is that if you want to go into executive session, there is a process for it, which requires that the motion clearly state the purpose and the fact that the public discussion, which I've advised you, would be detrimental or could be detrimental to the city's position, and that by public discussion thereof, and as to whether or not you intend to reconvene at the conclusion of the executive session, an open session, and that vote must be by a roll call vote.
Okay, well, my reason for saying this is on your advice, Attorney Fenton. So I would make the motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the status of the challenge to the baseball construction contract, and also to discuss how the challenge affects the schedule for our construction, and that we would not reconvene following the executive session.
That motion is seconded by Council Richards.
Well, I have a question as to whether or not that satisfies the statute as we know it. I mean, I think it's public record as to what the effect of the challenge is.
That's right. Actually, what the public meeting law says is that you can go into executive session to discuss pending litigation and its effects and any strategy that might be conducive with respect to the handling of that pending litigation. I therefore caution against adding to that as to whether the schedule is being met in terms of the baseball stadium. I don't think that's a proper addition or addendum to the motion. So
all right, I can take a hint.
let's limit it to what
I'll
was first
withdraw my motion, and I'll say that I request that the council go into executive session to discuss the pending litigation regarding the baseball construction contract and our strategy thereof. And that we will not reconvene after the executive session. Did I get everything right?
Well stated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Seconded by Council Richards. Roll call. Yes.
Councilor Matthew Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Eileen Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Gendron?
Yes.
Councilor Howe?
No.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
No.
Excuse me, Councilor Mulligan?
Yes.
Councilor Richards?
Yes.
Motion carries, and we'll go into executive session immediately following this meeting. Motion by Councilor Gendron, City Council requests the city manager require aesthetic improvements to the methane to energy plant on Stedman Street. Seconded by Councilor Eileen Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Mayor, this is requiring aesthetic, not aesthetic, improvements to the methane energy plant with an A. The methane plant up at the landfill site, I have some concern about that. I feel as though the subcommittee was misled to some extent with regard to the construction. I thought I distinctly remember discussion about that, the location of that plant, in that it would be well off the road. I think that 60 yards off the road was the distance that we were given, and certainly it isn't. In fact, it's probably about 10 feet off the road. So, I mean, they're big green trailer-like structures, and they're not very pleasing to the eye. So I was wondering if we might, now that we have this revolving account, that obviously the methane energy plant is a good thing. and it's the right thing to do from an environmental and from a financial standpoint. I think it would have been better if we could have located it. It's a big site. There's no reason why we couldn't have located that thing further back so it didn't, it wasn't an eyesore. But I think that it is now. So I would request that we do what we can under the situation to make it look better. And now that we have the revolving account there, we should probably be able to use some of that funding to do that.
While we're doing that also, just to improve the overall aesthetics of the landfill, right around Wood Street and that general vicinity.
Right, it could be an overall...
Manager Martin?
Yeah, I know there is a 14-foot barrier that was going to surround the methane area. There'll be some type of a wall that's constructed there, and I haven't seen the plans that were originally presented, but there is a barrier included, and then we will do additional landscaping. But I will get all of that to you, perhaps to go to the subcommittee if you want, but I'll get that to everyone and get back to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't we refer it to the environmental subcommittee to take a look at the plans and see what we can do to improve it going forward. My other concern, now that it's so close to the road, is noise. I know one of the things we were concerned about noise from the beginning, and they said that it would meet all the state standards and it would be so far off the road. Now that it's closer to the road, is noise going to be a problem from that? So there's a lot of issues to discuss about it, and I would suggest we refer to the environmental subcommittee.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Motion by Council General. City Council requests the city manager of the proper department prohibit truck traffic on School Street from Liberty Street to C Street. Seconded by Council Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was contacted several times, actually, by a person who lives on the corner of C and School Street. And I think everybody's aware of School Street coming. If you come from over the river up to Liberty Street, and you have Chuck's Variety there on your right-hand side. School Street becomes very narrow at that point, and cars parked on both sides. What happens apparently is that trucks coming from across the river will be looking for the highway, looking for 495, and they'll shoot over School Street, continue down past Chuck's Variety all the way to C Street, and then they get to C Street, and these big trucks have no place to go because they can't make the corner on C Street either way. Apparently this woman was awakened several times in the middle of the night by tractor-trailer trucks driving over her sidewalk and knocking over trees and everything else, trying to get out and not knowing where they were going. So I've already talked to Assistant City Manager Smith about this, and he looked into putting signage up there to indicate where the highway is when you get to Liberty and School there. But I thought it might be, if we went one step further and prohibited truck traffic down School Street, it would be appropriate. Only from Liberty on, that is.
All in favor of the motion? Council Mulligan.
I'm not opposed to this, but would this affect Chuck's at all? I mean, I'm assuming that he
I don't think so. In fact, if a truck was going to Chuck's, and I don't know if Chuck's has 18-wheelers going, delivering supplies.
This is just for 18-wheelers?
We'll soon find out.
But I think a truck could get to Chuck's anyway, since it's on the corner.
I just don't want to, if they have deliveries and so on, that they have to be there.
I think we ought to do something so that it doesn't affect deliveries to Chuck's and prohibits the 18-wheelers from going to C Street.
Very good.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Council General. City Council requests the city manager of the proper department place school zone signage at the Arts Magnet School and other schools in the city. Seconded by Councilor Matthew Donohoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A parent of a student at the Arts Magnet School contacted me about putting signage up around the Arts Magnet School since it's right on a very busy street there. Thought it was a good idea. But after that, I started looking around at other schools in the city, and many of them seem like they don't have school zone indications. So I think we ought to take stock of the school zones in the city and see if we can't demarc all of them so that we can, make drivers aware of the threat.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion by Councilor Gendron. City Council requests the city manager provide a detailed schedule of the youth recreation programs for the summer of '97. Second by Councilor Martin.
This was pretty much hashed out in the meeting a couple of weeks ago, but I thought if we could just get, now that we're nearing the start of the youth programs, if we could just get a summary of everything that's going to be started and the dates that they're going to be started, that would be helpful.
Okay. Can I just mention, there was, I think one of the suggestions was to include the programming in the City of Lowell report. They are working on that right now to have additional information get out there. Thanks.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The last and final motion of the evening. Motion by Council Minister. City Council requests the City Manager have the Traffic Division redefine the traffic lines on Appleton Street and Church Street as well as in other areas of the city. Seconded by Councilor Howe.
I want to take you to the old school department at 89 Appleton Street, and when you're at the lights there, you're coming into the intersection of Gorham Street. Well, when you go to the next set of lights, you have the United Restaurant Equipment on the left, and you have the Career Fitness on the right. Now, you have three areas, that it's 3 lanes there. You take, if you're in the left, you could go down to Central Street. But now, you know you can't take a right there, so either you're going straight or you're taking a far left. But it should be redefined. That is a very dangerous area right there because it seems like the further right 2 lanes are going to go straight, and they're just, you have to weave in, and it's very dangerous. I don't know why we haven't redefined it and restructured it to make a little bit more sense out of it. This is an area that should be defined. It's confusing to the motorist, but also with the closing of the Willette Bridge in Centerville, there'll be a greater impact on the Rourke Bridge. So I would wonder if we could, since I put et cetera, this is the et cetera I was getting at, to Middlesex Street, if we could redefine that area too, because we're going to have more of an influx of traffic in that area because of the closure of the Willette Bridge. And also, the O'Donnell Bridge was recently done with arrows, and it was a little more easier to understand. They painted crosswalks in that area of Pawtucket Street and School Street right at the beginning of the O'Donnell Bridge. And I'm noted for the fact that, and I appreciate the fact that they did that, but I want to note that the time that they did it at a time when it was the heavily congested of traffic. If we could define all these areas, but do it in an off-peak time when the traffic is less congested.
Did they do that one this morning?
Yeah, they did.
I noticed. I was sitting in the traffic. Okay.
Yeah, you were sitting in traffic, so that's what I got a call that it...
Before we adjourn, Manager Martin, on Suffolk Street, I get complaints about the lighting being out, and it's not advantageous to the community, so we could check on that. And also the lighting around St. Louis Park, that particular street, if we can take a look at that lighting. Another thing, speaking of lighting, I'm very impressed with the lighting at the Demoulas new shopping center on Broadway Street. Could we investigate and see if we could transfer that system into the existing poles we have on Central Street to improve the lighting? I don't know if we can, but I think it'd be worthwhile investigating it. That those lights illuminate all of Broadway, and it's beautiful.
Plus, they're more solid.
That's right.
Mr. Mayor, I have 4 short things under unfinished business, if I could address that come up very late so that we had a power outage in the downtown yesterday. This was brought to my attention. I think that it should be corrected, so if you get your pen out, Mr. Assistant City Manager, because this is very important. And we had the power outage in the downtown, so businesses were letting their people go. And when they were going down into the garage on John Street, I didn't know. I mean, you learn something new every day. I feel embarrassed to tell you that I didn't know this. But when you go into the first level at the John Street garage, I thought that was the bottom floor, but there's in fact, a basement underground where you can park your car under the ground level. I didn't know that, and I went there to check it out because I couldn't believe this call. But with that power outage, there was no backup generator in the garage, and I think that's very, very dangerous. You know, the people that were let go about 4:30 and the outage was there, the lights were out, there was no backup generator. They were frightened, they were holding each other's hands going down the stairs. Thank God nobody got hurt and fell. That might never happen again, but we should get a backup generator there. It was pitch black, and the people were very, very frightened, and there was no security guard there to offer a flashlight to bring them down there. That is a disgrace. That's a disgrace. That is our we own that, and we could have been held liable if anybody ever got hurt there. So that's number one. The second one, there's no doubt about the sadness we all felt when St. Peter's Church came down, but I'd like to offer some information and a little good news as to an update on the church. They're putting together a Veterans Memorial down at the Cape, and they're using some of the granite stones from the church. The stone matches almost perfectly to the stones that they have already up there. Other than for leaving the church intact, at least these stones will be used for a good cause. And also, the third one, I was informed about illegal dumping on Methuen Street. When you come down Christian Street to the bottom of the hill and you face Methuen Street at 290, about that, it's a wooded area. Trucks are going into this wooded area and they're dumping grass, shrubberies, trees, branches, landscaping debris. There's a path that leads into that, and they're disposing of all kind of material there. This poses a significant hazard for the neighborhood, for the neighbors around there, and if a possible fire ever broke out. First of all, I think maybe I should make this into a form of a motion because I want to know who owns that property. If it's the city, I want it to be made safe, or whoever owns that property. When you go in there, I went there, if we could put some sort of a pole, a telephone pole in the way of that roadway leading into the woods or something. I don't know who's responsible if we can find out and do that. And that's now number 4. I'm sorry, but I just would have made motions, but I just hit me off. If we're going into executive session, you can listen to this for a minute. 2 weeks ago, Mayor Caulfield made a motion that since we're having a structural engineer look at the 199 Broadway, let the engineer inspect the other 3 properties as well. And this motion failed on a roll call vote, and I can understand why, because my colleagues probably figured, which made sense, if we already had these places inspected before, why do it again? So I checked all my papers, and I have a habit of saving things for years and years and years, and I try to go back and look and see what I have in there, and I can't find a structural report. Mr. Manager, did we get a copy of the structural report from the? We did, because I can't find it.
We'll get you another coffee.
And when, you don't know when we got this? Did any of my colleagues remember getting a report? Because I don't remember getting a structural report from the 4 properties in question by CBA. Mr. Mayor, do you remember getting it? Structural report?
No.
No, okay. Well, did a structural engineer ever inspect any of those 4 properties?
Yes, and that's what is included in the report.
Well, in order to file an application with EOCD from the state, a structural report should have been filed when they filed, should have been presented when they filed their application. It just so happens that I have the application here, and it was very interesting to look at it because there's different sections here, and it tells the development team, and there's 13 exhibits here. For example, it was very interesting because it tells what they were requesting and if they filed it, and it says marketing plan. Of course, they put no. Then it says relocation plan, no. It said energy budget, no. It says general contractors financial capacity, no, which means they didn't include it. And it says structural report, no. So when they applied for this, they didn't even have a structural report in their application. So if you can clarify this and provide one to me so I can see it. I don't know if my colleagues ever saw a structural report. I certainly haven't.
Councilor Mercier, from what I understand, the structural engineer that the city is hiring has tremendous credentials.
I don't mean from the city. I mean by CBA.
I don't know, but I could care less what they're doing. But
Well,
I'm talking about
if the CBA filed a
talking about the
report.
structural engineer that the city is hiring.
I'm not talking about that one. Your motion failed last
know.
week. And I'm asking...
I'm well aware of that.
And I'm asking, so we assumed that the CBA hired a structural engineer to do a feasibility study.
I know, but just to bring this to a conclusion, the structural engineer that the city is hiring, from what I understand, has tremendous credentials, immense integrity, and will inspect the building.
Well,
Hopefully, he'll say the building cannot be saved.
I
But
hope so.
we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see.
Councilor General?
Thank you. One quick one. Corner of Foster and Pine Streets. There's, on Foster Street, there's a painted stop on the ground because it's a very busy intersection, and we put it there a couple years ago. It needs to be repainted. Will you please get that high on the list?
Councilor Howe?
I'm going to move to adjourn, but before I do, there's one thing I want to point out, Mr. Manager. Over at Middlesex Community College, it's right where the bridge connects onto the college, there's a wall. There are youngsters that are standing on that wall with a drop of, I'd say, 30 feet. Very dangerous type there. They're using their fishing pole. Just seems to me that we ought to get the police to at least take a look at that place once in a while. Especially with the tragedy that we just had, we ought to be more alert to.
Council Mulligan?
Before you adjourn, could you get in touch with the state and find out, I know I understand that they're not going to be doing any work on Bridge Street Bridge because of the Willette Bridge closing, but can we get a date when they're going to come back and do the Bridge Street Bridge the way it was supposed to have been done when they were first here? Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
First of all, we can't adjourn. We're going into executive
Well,
session.
recess.
We'll adjourn there. But before we go into executive session, the Lower Highlands Neighborhood Group will have a crime watch meeting Monday, June 23rd, Notre Dame de Lourdes Church at 6:30 p.m. The guest speakers will be State Representatives Tom Golden and Kevin Murphy. Also, the Belvedere Neighborhood Association will have a meeting June 12th, St. Joseph's Lithuanian Church, 90 Rogers Street, 7:30 p.m. Last but not least, the William H. Decker Memorial Dedication, the corner of Horn and Lane Streets, will be dedicated to the memory of William H. Decker Jr. on Saturday, June 28th, 1997 at 1 p.m. The entire public and council is invited to attend. We will now go into executive session.